body so that we're not reacting in ways that do not serve us.
Y muchas veces, si decidimos salir a las calles, nos enfrentamos a la policía, pasan muchas cosas, sentimos mucho, sentimos temor, nos sentimos muy enojadas. Nuestro cuerpo quizás va a reaccionar en maneras que no nos sirven.
So the place we want to get to is that place of love and connection. So I often ask, what does love feel like? And we're going to do this in translated first before we go, interpreted first. But I want you to get with the people next to you, and we're too all hot and sweaty. If you want to share a hug, you can do that. You can just connect elbows. You can connect hands. But I want us to take a moment to connect with people around us, to honor each other's willingness to be here today.
Y por eso estoy repasando todo esto, porque será importante cuando estamos en las calles y sintiendo todo eso. Así que, por favor, sientan ese amor. Muchas veces hablo y les digo a la gente que piensan en lo que sienten cuando sienten amor. Les voy a pedir, yo sé que hace mucho calor, pero para sentir ese amor y conexión con la persona que tenga a la par, se pueden dar un abrazo, pueden tocarse las manos, los codos, lo que sea, para demostrar ese honor que tenemos para una entre las otras, para el movimiento y el amor.
And they know the power of love and connection, which is why they will not allow these children to be hugged or touched.
Ellos saben el poder del amor y de la conexión, y por eso no permiten que estas niñas y estos niños pueden abrazar o tocar.
So when they continue to demonstrate that level of inhumanity, it is our obligation and our role to bring our humanity forward as fully and as powerful as we can, and that's what we're doing today.
Entonces, cuando ellos demuestran esta falta de humanidad, es nuestra obligación y nuestro papel demostrar esa humanidad, traer esa humanidad, porque eso nos trae el poder.
Okay, there's a lot more we could do, but we're not going to do that today. Let me just say this. We are here, I'm just going to assert this. You have to decide for yourself why you're here. But I believe we are here to build a powerful movement that has the ability to make the change in the conditions of our lives.
Lo que vamos a hacer hoy, como dije, es traer esa humanidad. Hay mucho más que podríamos hacer en preparación, no lo vamos a hacer hoy, pero estamos aquí, ustedes sabrán por qué están aquí. Para mí, estamos aquí para demostrar ese poder del movimiento que va a causar un cambio en las condiciones de nuestras vidas.
Power is not static. They don't have it all. We have power. It's a dance. It means that we don't have to do what they tell us to do. We're going to do what we decide to do for ourselves.
El poder no es una cosa estática que no se cambia. Sí se puede cambiar. Es un baile. No tenemos que hacer lo que nos dicen y podemos decidir lo que queremos hacer.
So we are coming today not from a place of power over the external authority that's oppressive. We're coming with power within, to shine a bright light, to break through all their hatred.
Entonces estamos aquí no para tener poder sobre la autoridad que nos oprime, sino para tener sacar ese amor y el poder que tenemos adentro.
So there's more we could do on that, but we're not going to. So I'm going to give you a little bit about the plan for the day. We're going to do a little bit of legal updates, but then we're going to be breaking out into circles to actually get some practice really quick. There'll be one for Spanish speakers. And then after that, we'll wrap it up, get our food, and get ready to roll. So when we roll out of here, we'll have some music, we're singing. We're going to march to the Department of Justice. We're going to go on a big, long march. We have people in red vests who are going to help you know where to be, when to be, and just let's work cooperatively. And they say, now's the time, and a bell rings. We're going to ask you all to sit down.
Entonces, estamos aquí para que salga esa luz, ese poder que tenemos adentro. Hay más que podemos hacer para prepararnos. Ahorita no lo vamos a hacer. Lo que sí voy a hacer es repasar el plan que tenemos hoy día. Vamos a hablar un poco de las cuestiones legales. Y después nos vamos a dividir en círculos para capacitación, para practicar. Y habrá un círculo que está en español. Después de eso, de que terminemos con eso, vamos a comer y después nos vamos. En lo que nos vamos va a haber música, vamos a cantar y vamos a ir en marcha hasta el Departamento de Justicia. Verán que hay personas que tienen chalecos rojos. Están aquí para ayudarnos a ver dónde ir y cuándo ir ahí. Vamos a pedir que tengamos un sentido de cooperación cuando lo hacemos y cuando nos comuniquen esas cosas. También cuando oigan que suena una campana, cuando con la campana suena, ahí es que le pedimos que nos sentemos.
There's going to be police, probably a lot of them. Don't worry about them. Worry about us.
Habrán policías, probablemente muchos policías. No se preocupen por ellos, preocúpense por nosotras.
Very little chance of us arresting us there. That's not where we want to be arrested.
Es poco probable que nos arresten ahí. Y ahí no es donde queremos que nos arresten.
We're going to leave from there and march to the Capitol. We're going to be entering into 2 Senate office buildings. There'll be the people in the red vest to help. They will facilitate you to a big space where we're all going to meet. And you just need to, please, don't start yelling or chanting just because you feel moved. Please don't do that. Wait till you see certain people doing "we care," and that's the signal to join in.
Después vamos a ir al Capitolio y a 2 edificios de oficinas del Senado. Y las personas en los chalecos rojos nos van a guiar a un gran espacio. Pedimos por favor que aunque sientan que quieren hacerlo, ahí mismo no se pongan a tirar consignas ni a gritar. Esperen hasta que nos den la señal de "we care" o "a nosotros nos importa". Y de ahí es cuando vamos a actuar en conjunto.
It's going to be easy. We're going inside and we're going to sit down at the right time at the right place. So don't stress about it.
Va a ser cosa fácil. Vamos a entrar y nos vamos a sentar en el lugar indicado, en el momento indicado. Así que no se preocupen.
And we're going to stay there as long as it takes. And I'm going to be there overnight if I need to be.
Nos vamos a quedar el tiempo que sea necesario y si es necesario yo me quedo ahí toda la noche.
And that's to end zero tolerance, let these children go, reunite families, close detention camps, abolish ICE. We are not here for crumbs and incremental change. We're here for liberation and freedom for all.
Y eso es para ponerle fin a ICE, a la detención familiar, a la separación de familias, a los campamentos de detención. No estamos aquí para que nos den migajas, sino que estamos aquí para un cambio real que nos traiga libertad.
So, it's going to be beautiful and perfect. I want to introduce Jennifer Walker, who has been doing a ton of stuff on the Hill, just really done amazing work in helping to shape this as well. And she's going to share some basic legal information with you. And there'll be a lot of people around to ask questions if you need to, because it's quick and dirty, but why not?
Lindo, perfecto. Entonces quiero presentarles a Jen Walker, que ha hecho una gran cantidad de trabajo acá acerca de con los legisladores. Ella nos va a compartir alguna información muy básica en el ámbito legal. Habrán otras personas con quien puedes hablar para hacerles más preguntas, pero aquí, ¿por qué no? Vamos a hacer unas cosas así rapidito.
Hello. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming out and for taking this step in the journey to save this country. This is exactly what we need, but we need it more and more and more. So I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about what it's like to be arrested. And I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't official legal advice. And that's great, actually, because the role for lawyers is after you're charged. There are no better experts than the people among you who have gotten arrested before. We are each other's experts. We are each other's ride or die. We're each other's crew.
Hola, gracias a todas y todas por estar aquí y por tomar este paso tan importante en esta travesía para rescatar a este país. Esto es exactamente lo que necesitamos, pero necesitamos más de esto. Quiero hablarles un poquito de lo que es los pasos, el aspecto que tiene ser arrestada. Que conste, yo no soy abogada, así que esto no representa consejo oficial legal. Y eso es bueno que no soy abogada porque el papel de una abogada o un abogado es después de que una sea procesada. Las expertas aquí son aquellas personas como nosotras que antes ya...
All right, cutting in here, guys, from our newsroom. You're watching Fox 5 Live on this Thursday, June 28th. Welcome to the stream. That was a little piece of what is going to be a large women's rally, women's march from the Department of Justice to Capitol Hill today. It's ongoing, as you can see. We'll see if we can take a split screen of this right now so you can see it. But essentially... Actually, let's go back there and bring me in the corner so we can chat with you. So this is going on now, and women, of course, resisting and talking about sort of this movement that is coming to pass, and talking about family protections, family separation at the border, all of this sort of in one. You can see this woman here sort of outlining the plan for the day for these women in this rally. And again, this is right here in D.C., so there's a lot of stuff going on out there. It's an outdoor day today because we also have simultaneously this rally here on the Hill. You can see this is going on live as well. People are protesting SCOTUS right outside of the Supreme Court after yesterday's, of course, announcement that Anthony Kennedy will be retiring, giving that open seat in the Supreme Court for up for a choice there for President Trump, his second high court pick to come. Democrats arguing, hey, wait till the elections in November, just like we did in 2016. Others saying Trump's going to get someone in there ASAP to kind of get his person on the court. So looks like we just lost that feed. So we'll go back to this protest. But a couple simultaneous things happening right now. We're going to try to bring you the best of all of it so you can see what's going on. And then later, President Trump is at his own event. I'm trying to get my information here. He's going to be in Wisconsin, so that'll be later towards the sort of mid to late afternoon hours, at least East Coast time. So if you're joining us from the West, you know that it's a little bit of a different timing. Yeah, he'll be at a groundbreaking event at Foxconn in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, which is a Taiwanese electronics manufacturer. And he'll be there to talk about tax stuff and incentives and whatnot, and the economy in general. So that's in Wisconsin. So this rally continues. We'll take you inside Capitol Hill as well, where Rod Rosenstein is testifying as well before Congress. So a couple different feeds to bring you all that on today's stream, and we'll see what else comes up. There's also a SpaceX pre-launch event. We'll try to see if we can snag that from NASA TV around noon. So more to come on that, guys. Take a listen into this women's rally. We'll stay here for just a little bit and sort of track their march from the Department of Justice to Capitol Hill as much as we can.
And then we're going to go over to the Capitol. And we are going to sit down, as was explained before. We are going to most likely be charged with something called incommoding, which just sounds awesome, right? Who hasn't want to be an incommoder before? I don't know how you say incommoding.
Vamos a ir al Capitolio y nos vamos a sentar y vamos a hacer lo que se explicó anteriormente. Probablemente los cargos que vamos a enfrentar es algo que en inglés se dice incommoding, que ahorita voy a buscar para ver cómo se dice en español y después les explico porque sinceramente no sé. Pero ¿quién no ha querido hacer eso? ¿No? Suena como una cosa muy seria.
So then you will be, I'm going to practice getting someone arrested. Do I have a volunteer? Can I arrest you? No, you need to do that. Yeah. Sam, BC. Okay, great. All right, so.
Chanting,
doing things.
Et cetera.
As soon as a cop says that you are under arrest, you are under arrest, even if he lets you go.
Entonces voy a practicar aquí como que si la estoy arrestando. Y cuando un policía te dice que estás bajo arresto, lo estás.
In the Capitol, they give warnings, but it's important to know that you should look to the leadership Look to the people leading the chants. Look to people telling you to be quiet. Sometimes when we want people to be quiet, we put our fists in the air. Can everyone do it? And we spread it around. So it's not this, it's just a straight up quiet. And then everyone's quiet. And then we know when they've given 1 warning, 2 warnings, 3 warnings. But they can just arrest you after 1 warning if they want.
Vamos a ir al Capitolio y ahí le dan una advertencia antes de arrestarlas. Entonces, lo que queremos que hagan es que estén pendientes, que miren a las personas que son guías, que son líderes, las que están, son las líderes de los cantos, de las consignas, y por si nos dicen que guardemos silencio. Y muchas veces hacemos esto con un puño así, arriba, y no es uno que movemos así, sino que así, un puño constante para indicar que guardemos silencio, porque así podemos oír y saber si nos han dado una advertencia, 2 o 3, aunque a veces te pueden arrestar después de la primera.
The most uncomfortable part of getting arrested is the cuffs. So she's got her hands behind her back. The cops will take your hands and put them behind your back. I like to stack them. That's backpack in the way. I like to do this just to give a little bit more room.
La parte más incómoda de ser arrestada es cuando le ponen las esposas, que le dicen, y ¿verdad? Entonces lo que hace la policía es que le agarra las manos y la pone detrás de su espalda. A mí me gusta poner una sobre la otra para que haya más espacio así.
Then the cops will walk with you and they will empty all of your pockets at some point. And they will put all of your things in a bag that will stay with your police officer.
Entonces el policía va a caminar con ustedes y en algún momento le van a sacar todo lo que tengan en los bolsillos y todo lo que tengan en su bolsa. Y lo ponen en una bolsa y eso lo va a llevar el policía.
Everything that you have is written down, so it's very helpful in terms of getting us all processed to bring in as little as humanly possible. So what you need is your government-issued ID, a driver's license, or a passport, and your $50. Does everyone have, well, actually, yeah.
Todo lo que ustedes tienen lo van a anotar. Entonces, lo que sería una gran ayuda es traer lo más poco posible para que nos puedan procesar más rápidamente. Traigan lo que necesitan. Lo que necesitan es una identificación del gobierno, ya sea su licencia de conducir o un pasaporte.
And then your officer, then you'll wait. You wait a lot. And then your officer will ask you a series of questions. They will sound scary. You only have to give your identifying information, your name. You can give the address that's on your identification, if there is one. They will ask you for 3 phone numbers. You can give any 3 phone numbers. They do not call them. They do ask you at one point if you can be questioned without an attorney present. You are not waiving your right to an attorney. You don't need an attorney at this point. We have actually attorneys who are going to handle this. But you should say, yes, you can be questioned without an attorney because otherwise they can't ask you the form and process you. And you would have to be detained longer. So we're asking everybody to say yes to all the questions.
Además de su identificación, van a necesitar sus $50 para que nos dejen salir. Después de eso, les va a tocar esperar. Van a esperar un largo rato y después le van a hacer unas preguntas y a lo mejor le va a parecer un poco, le va a dar miedo las preguntas.
So pretty interesting here, guys. The women prepping for what is to be their rally, their march here in D.C., and sort of really getting ready for what it is like to be arrested in a protest. It seems like they're prepping them to make sure they have all the right things on them and they're ready with the words to say as well, if that does happen. Not quite sure how much more video we'll have of this because I know they're making a move here in Capitol Hill, but this is a big rally day. Like I mentioned, it's a pretty good-sized protest. I wish we could kind of get a pan of the crowd that has gathered here. But if we do get some more video of this, we'll make sure we bring that to you live on our stream. Let's jump over, though, to the House Judiciary Committee Christopher Wray, the FBI director, and the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, are testifying before them, talking to the Judiciary Committee. So let's jump over there.
Congressional oversight, which is very important to me personally, but also respecting ongoing criminal investigations, which is also very important.
And there's certain information that you cannot provide to this committee based on the ongoing nature of the criminal investigation. Is that correct?
Yes.
The time of the gentleman has expired. The committee will stand in recess. There's 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in a vote on the floor, and we will reconvene as soon as that vote concludes.
Didn't hear you. What? Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
All right, well, we didn't quite expect that to end so abruptly right there, but it looks like they are taking a break in that committee hearing room, so we'll go back to that in a little bit. Let's go back to this women's rally and just see what we can get from this and what the camera's going to follow today, so we can kind of be in the midst of it. And then we'll take you to some of the top stories of the day, of course, recounting the retiring of Anthony Kennedy, Justice Kennedy, and what that means now for the court, and some other top stories of the day.
I'm going to pull everybody back, and you guys are going to come up and sing songs and chant. Okay, so that'll be, you guys are closing us out. So in about 15 minutes or so? Yeah.
This is going to be quite a ride in the months ahead. These retirements are always tough to predict, but the partisan warfare that will This is going to be quite a ride in the months ahead. These retirements are always tough to predict, but the partisan warfare that will ensue is going to get ugly. Don't let the sweeping facade fool you. What's happening now at the Supreme Court is nothing short of an earthquake. 81-year-old Justice Anthony Kennedy, seen for years as the swing vote, the guy you had to win over, is retiring. And President Trump, speaking at a rally in North Dakota last night, made it clear he wants to make the most of it.
We have to pick a great one. We have to pick one that's going to be there for 40 years, 45 years.
And that prospect of a further Trump imprint on the court that could last for decades left Democrats dejected.
This retirement is earth-shattering and gut-wrenching.
And they point to the Republicans' refusal to consider President Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland during the 2016 election year and say the GOP should wait until after the midterms.
Our Republican colleagues in the Senate should follow the rule they set in 2016, not to consider a Supreme Court justice in an election year.
But Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who controls the calendar, isn't likely to budge.
We will vote to confirm Justice Kennedy's successor this fall.
And there are plenty of names floating around, nearly any of which will run into Democratic opposition. But they can only do so much, and President Trump has learned just this week how big of a deal this is, with his earlier appointee, Neil Gorsuch, helping to chalk up victories on the administration's travel ban, a decision limiting union power, and another in favor of anti-abortion groups.
So Trump now knows both the political force of this decision and the practical agenda force of this decision.
And remember, in the Senate now, you just need a simple majority to confirm a Supreme Court pick, and Republicans have that, 51-49. So there is not much wiggle room here for the GOP. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
We will begin our search for a new justice of the United States Supreme Court that will begin immediately.
As the country is still reeling from Justice Anthony Kennedy's retirement announcement, all eyes now turn to the president and what comes next.
I'm very honored that he chose to do it during my term in office because he felt confident in me to make the right choice and carry on his great legacy.
The president says he will choose a nominee from his published list of 25 conservative judges. The current frontrunners are all from the appellate courts: Brett Kavanaugh from the D.C. Circuit, the Seventh Circuit's Amy Coney Barrett, Thomas Hardiman of the Third Circuit, Raymond Ketledge, and Amul Thapar, both from the Sixth Circuit. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate will vote on the nominee this fall, but that would be right before the midterm elections. And with so much at stake, Democrats are already gearing up for a huge battle.
We should not allow a justice in an election year. We should not allow a justice who doesn't believe in women's rights, who doesn't believe in the fabric of this country. The battle lines have been drawn. Which side are you on?
Maintaining Kennedy's legacy with his replacement is a tricky task because Justice Kennedy's decisions were unpredictable. Many people are seeing this as President Trump's chance to replace a swing vote with a true conservative, which could change the trajectory of the courts for generations. At the Supreme Court, Doug McElway, Fox News.
When countries abuse us by sending their people up, not their best, we're not going to give any more aid to those countries. Why the hell should we?
After decades of foreign aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, critics wonder what that money bought.
We are working on an infrastructure in the Northern Triangle. Let's continue with that policy.
Advocates say U.S. aid to Central American countries promotes economic progress and reduces violence, thereby cutting illegal immigration. But is that accurate?
In Honduras, we just can't live there anymore because of the gangs.
Apprehensions from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador peaked in 2015. After a slight decline, agents say arrests and asylum claims in 2018 are up again, despite more U.S. aid.
I really think that just giving money to those governments to try and solve their problems, I don't think that would be productive.
In the last decade, U.S. taxpayers sent billions to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Yet all three remain among the poorest in Latin America, while bribery, corruption, and murder rates rank among the world's worst.
These families are seeking asylum, protection from unimaginable prosecution and persecution and violence.
Conditions down there are quite horrible, that the violence is quite bad, but at the same time, it is not the responsibility of the United States to solve the problems of other countries.
U.S. aid is supposed to get young people out of gangs and into the workforce. Instead, they're leaving in droves, creating a crisis on the border.
Now think of all that aid that we give some of these countries.
While the president wants to cut aid next year, some in Congress want to double it. Others argue without more accountability, more money from Washington is throwing good money after bad.
Until there is a serious focus by the administration, a serious focus by Congress to really delve into this, we're not going to see the crisis at our border stop.
So the missing link in all this is Mexico, which elects a new president on Sunday, a leftist candidate who has already expressed solidarity with migrants hoping to enter the United States. Vice President Pence on Thursday meets with Central American leaders in Guatemala. His message: cooperate to reduce illegal immigration or face consequences. In Mexico City, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
An earthquake for Democrats as a powerful congressman potentially in line to replace Nancy Pelosi as party leader, Joe Crowley, lost his primary to a newcomer. 28-year-old socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a disciple of Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, who says she wants Medicare for all, so-called free tuition for college students, and wants to abolish ICE, which protects the nation's borders.
Gone is the party of JFK. Here is the party of radical socialism.
Pelosi was in a race of her own today to insist Crowley's turf in Queens, New York is so liberal it does not mean bigger trouble nationally.
They made a choice in one district, so let's not get yourself carried away.
Except Pelosi said the opposite in 2014, when Republican Majority Leader Eric Cantor lost his primary.
The Republican Party going even further to the right.
The question for Pelosi now is whether the blue wave she's hyping for a November takeover of the House is starting to boomerang, as Republicans get fired up by the tilt to the left, which includes Democrat Maxine Waters calling for more protests and verbal attacks targeting aides to President Trump.
There was a time in America's history where you could be denied service in a restaurant based on the color of your skin. Now, apparently, it's the color of your voter registration card.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to talk about civility, you start with the President of the United States.
In New York, Ocasio-Cortez had a much more uplifting message about a working mom with limited money, and a young Latina taking out a party boss thrilled Bernie Sanders.
We're seeing a whole lot of young people getting involved in Our Revolution organization, getting involved in grassroots campaign.
That energy is a good sign for Democrats in safe liberal seats, but it could get more complicated in moderate House districts and red Senate seats, as the GOP base, already amped up by the retirement of Justice Anthony Kennedy, will get frequent reminders about socialist rising.
It was a stunning development. The energy in the Democratic Party is self-avowed socialist, open borders.
The biggest boost for the GOP base may come from the fact that Crowley's ouster makes it more likely Pelosi will stay on as either Speaker or Minority Leader, so she will remain front and center in Republican attack ads this fall. In Washington, Ed Henry, Fox News.
We're in Salida, Colorado.
At the Fairview Cemetery in Chaffee County.
Pretty old cemetery.
You'll find plenty of interesting sights and sounds.
It's a beautiful place. I mean, look at this.
After all, this place dates back more than a century and a half.
A lot of history here.
And despite how much time has passed, one thing has always rolled the same way.
Hi, Keegan.
The care and compassion
I worry about you.
this community shares.
Yeah, I love that kid.
For on this day, folks came together under the heavens to say goodbye to a young man who died in a hellish way.
There are a lot of bones that are found out in the mountains from people that died of natural causes, but we knew that he had died of a probably violent death.
The skeletal remains of a pioneer from the mid-1800s discovered 2 years back.
And he was alone for a long time.
Brought us to this moment.
And here we are today.
A moment this community felt needed a more honorable goodbye.
You know, and so I think it all kind of struck us like this person deserved one more good thing to happen in his life, and so here we are.
For in a welcoming place like the Fairview Cemetery,
so years have happened between then and now.
The past can still be buried in a present and proper way.
We wanted to do this.
We're in Levine. It's Mexico versus Sweden. It's the World Cup. Pancho Villa's army is behind me, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
That's right, Pancho Villa's army. That's what these fans of Mexico call themselves, and they are out in force.
You're wearing a flag.
Yes, I'm wearing the flag and my tricolor jersey. So
let me guess, you are a fan of Mexico.
Of course. My parents are from Mexico. I'm Mexican, so of course.
It means so much. As a little girl, I grew up with my father screaming at the TV every time Mexico was playing. And now that they beat the world champion Germany on the first game, today we're going to kick butt. So this is historical for all of us.
Mexico won its first 2 World Cup games, but needed a win against Sweden to keep it going. And if not a win, a tie or a loss for Germany in its game against South Korea to be sure to move on in the tournament. But after a strong first half, El Tri ran into trouble in the second half. The Swedes came on strong and scored 3 goals. But just when it looked dismal for Mexico, the fans' spirits were lifted because South Korea shocked the defending champions, Germany, 2-0, sending the Germans crashing out of the tournament and propelling the Mexicans into the round of 16.
Can Mexico win the World Cup?
Absolutely, we can. I'm thinking with my heart, absolutely, we can. Now, my brain says it's going to be tough, but we can do it. We can absolutely win the World Cup, and we're going to be here regardless if they win or lose. We're going to be cheering them on here in Phoenix.
So Mexico moves on. How far can the team go? Who knows? Maybe they can shock their next opponents, Brazil, and the world.
In Phoenix, Steve Kraft, Fox 10 News.
It's like everybody's just waiting for this place to die off so that they could just wipe it completely out and just reset it.
Anita Gardner won't let that happen.
Yes.
To Mount Pleasant along Kinsman Road in Cleveland.
But we also need to be able to cook.
Instead, she's building back up the crime-ridden and troubled neighborhood.
I want to be part of the solution because I know a lot of the problems. Bringing 3 more kids in, but they're older.
So Gardner created a modest but powerful safe haven, the Concerned Citizens Community Council.
Everything has escalated, and then everybody wants to jump and say, oh, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. Well, let's just kind of start at the bottom so that it doesn't escalate.
Can you name it now? Everybody say parts to speak.
Gardner doesn't turn anyone away, but they focus on helping kids ages 5 to 20.
Verbs are words of action or being.
They have tutors.
All these are pants right here.
And free clothes and a place to shower.
And a lot of kids have gone back to school because they're not the dirty, smelly kids in school anymore. They actually have a change of clothes.
They also teach kids who often don't have a parent at home skills like sewing and cooking.
We try to teach the young mothers how to do a pantry.
Gardner says these small things can help change someone's life.
Once you come here, you have an answer. And that's all we want to do is be the answer for a lot of problems.
They also have a way for people to anonymously report crime to police.
Yes, we do have few issues with some police officers, but we have a lot of issues with a lot of people in our community. And if you don't collaborate and try to find some kind of common ground, you're always going to have that friction.
John Adams.
No one here makes any money. The center runs on small donations, and Gardner is okay with that.
We won't get funded by the large organizations because they can't tell us what to do and how to do it.
Remus the canine came to his buddy's rescue after he found himself over the edge. Back in April, this backyard surveillance video went viral.
It was just awesome to know, that no one was around and Remus still chose to do something really good.
You can see the dog's friend Smokey nearly struggles to get out of the water after jumping in. Luckily, Remus rushed to his side.
I was out of town for work, and then my parents were watching Remus, and they were playing by the pool. My dad was inside the house, and things led to things. He fell in, and then, Remus jumped in and saved him.
Well, today, Remus is being recognized as a hometown hero by the Mesa Fire Department for saving Smokey's life.
It was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, it's great to see when people save lives, but also dogs can save lives too. He's just kind of embodying what we're trying to teach right now to not only people, but animals as well. He was there to help a friend in need, and so we try to teach those ABCs of water safety.
Remus's mom and family say they couldn't be more proud of the 1-year-old pup.
I'm a proud dog mom, that's all I gotta say.
His reward? A bag of dog biscuits, fit for a canine hero. Carmen Blackwell, Fox 10 News.
But long after the game ends, the post-game celebrations have subsided. We're going to have this lasting impact, this lasting legacy, these memories that'll stay in our community for a long time. I like to think, in wrapping up here, art is something that really is unique. It's what you hang on a wall to make a house feel like a home. And our goal, our hope with this project is that we can take some of the blank walls in our city of Atlanta and really make it come from being a house to being our home. And then we're excited to be a part of making that community effort. So with that, I'd like to bring up Amika Soltis.
Good morning. My name is Emiko Soltis, and I serve as the Executive Director of Freedom University, Georgia. Freedom U is a modern-day freedom school for undocumented students banned from public higher education in Georgia. Freedom U is proud to serve as a community partner in the Off the Wall project, and I'm deeply honored to serve on the Advisory Council. In my capacity as a teacher at the one true sanctuary campus in the world, where each and every one of my students is undocumented. I have the rare opportunity to teach and learn from some of the most courageous young people in the world today. My students were brought to Georgia as children and have gone to the same schools, played in the same parks, worked in the same industries, and paid the same taxes as other Georgians. But unlike other Georgians, they cannot attend our top public universities, and they cannot vote. In 2011, Georgia became one of only 3 states in the country, including South Carolina and Alabama, to ban undocumented students from public universities. And despite this immense barrier to higher education, and living in a political environment of profound uncertainty and fear, undocumented students are coming out of the shadows. They're building bridges with other students, communities of faith, and social justice organizations across the city of Atlanta, and are leading a mighty freedom struggle for human rights here in the city. Here in Atlanta, they are standing on the shoulders of giants. You see the spark that lit the wildfire of mass civil disobedience to desegregate Atlanta in the spring of 1960 was a document written by a young woman named Rosalind Pope, a student at Spelman College. Signed by Black student leaders of the Atlanta student movement, they articulated the injustices that they faced in education, in employment, in housing, voting, and policing, and made a powerful call to action in a document they called an appeal for human rights. Young people for generations in this city have been leading the struggle for human rights. And I say human rights intentionally and with great respect, because the legacy of the Black freedom struggle here in Atlanta was much more than a movement for civil rights, or the right to be treated equally under the law of a government. It was a movement for human rights, a radical assertion of were physically exploitable but politically powerless. It was a movement that proclaimed that we can not accept one's labor but deny their humanity. This was clear in the signs held by King and the sanitation workers on strike in Memphis in that spring of 1968 that said in big bold letters, "I am a man." It was a movement that recognized the full spectrum of rights: political, civil, economic, social, and cultural rights. Rights like the right to an education, the right to a decent wage, the right to housing, the right to form a union, and the right to vote. Rights that were enshrined 70 years ago in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the most widely translated document in the world. It was a message of human rights that allowed these young Black leaders in Atlanta to connect with and inspire other oppressed people around the globe who are yearning to be free. It is my hope that through the powerful medium of art and in the spirit of collaboration across our many, many communities here in Atlanta, this project will elevate and advance Atlanta's contribution to the global human rights movement. It is my hope that this project will help visitors to Atlanta recognize and respect all people of this soil, and especially those who are often made invisible. 1 in 10 Georgians is an immigrant. 1 in 3 of these immigrants is undocumented. And many of those we call immigrants are in fact descendants of the indigenous people of these lands. And it is immigrants who are working the soil in Georgia today, planting, picking, packing, shipping, and preparing the food that makes all other labor and all other endeavors, including football games, possible. Finally, I hope that by engaging with undocumented youth and other young leaders in Atlanta, this project will also make visible the role that young people have played and will continue to play in building that better world that we know is possible. Thank you.
We will now open it up for questions and answers from the media. If I could have our speakers come back up if they choose to accept the questions. I'm going to move the microphone up a little because I'm short and they're taller than me.
This comes at a time when there's a lot of discussion throughout the NFL regarding taking a knee and protesting during the anthem. Was this inspired by that at all? How do you balance having a lasting impact with sending a message?
This project was inspired by the many ways that artists and other activists struggle for justice and equality for all. The concept for the project emerged before the more recent discussion and issues facing the NFL with regard to the anthem protests. But certainly Wonderroot, and I want to speak for Wonderroot, believes that civil disobedience and peaceful protest, whether through by athletes or artists, is a powerful way to transform communities and transform conversations.
I would just say also, I'd like to add to Chris's comments, as we looked at this as a host committee, we were about celebrating the history here and inspiring the future and the youth of the others. We've communicated clearly with the NFL about this program. They're very supportive of this. They have embraced it as well. They're excited to see what we're doing. The Super Bowl is kind of a jigsaw puzzle that comes in to each city, and it's how you take those puzzle pieces and fit it into your city is what makes it unique. And so the NFL has embraced this program. They're excited about what we're going to do here. And I'd say it's really built more around what we are as a community, the diverse community that it is Atlanta now, than it is about anything else going on outside of here.
I just want to add, I'm sure it's not lost on anyone that we are on Auburn Avenue, which really is ground central for so many things in Atlanta as it relates to civil rights, but also arts and culture in Atlanta. We are across the street from Big Bethel, down the street from Ebenezer, down the street from Wheat Street, where so many of these movements literally began in the basement of these churches. And then just a block away from the Royal Peacock, which is one of our nation's cultural institutions, and might I add, the place where my parents met. So it is really important that we have these lasting reminders in our city of obviously what the civil rights movement means to Atlanta, but also what arts and culture means as well.
Anthony Patterson with the Atlanta Boys. Besides uniting all groups through the murals throughout Atlanta and other places, how do you plan, what are your main goals as far as tackling bigger social issues such as voting rights, police brutality, immigration set by the President of the United States, and those bigger issues that we as Americans fear?
And I'll let the others join in on this, but really as we talk about art and what art means, it's more than just beauty. Quite often art is a conversation starter. And I think that is what you see reflected in the comments that were given today, that this is more than having something that's visually pleasing. It is about people having conversations in our communities about issues that continue to face our communities, and this reminder of what we can achieve when we all collectively come together to make a difference for the good.
Just to add to the mayor's comments, we believe that there are 3 conditions required for lasting social change. And those conditions are a shift in public discourse, a shift in public policy, and personal transformation. And art and culture have the unique ability to transcend boundaries and barriers of race, religion, class, geography, physical ability, language, gender, sexual orientation, the things that oftentimes prevent us from coming together, that oftentimes prevent us from having the personal transformation required, that oftentimes prevent us from affecting policy change the way that is needed. And it's our hope that Off the Wall and our work through Off the Wall is a drop in the bucket of the many, many drops that are needed to affect change in our communities here in Atlanta and across the country. Work in progress. So we have targeted the neighborhoods of Vine City, English Avenue, Castleberry Hill, and certainly the downtown tourism area as a focus area. We're working with Central Atlanta Progress, some partners around the stadium and on the west side, to identify the walls, and we'll work with the artists and community residents to really figure out what the right placement of the right artworks are, so that communities and residents will be living with these artworks indefinitely will have a voice in determining what artworks they're living with.
How long did that take?
This mural behind us? While not a part of this project, and has been here for several years, is by Sean Schwab for the Loss Prevention Collective. And I think that Sean took well over a week to produce this mural.
We got a student over here. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hi, as a teacher, I would love to answer that question as well. So as I mentioned, Freedom University is a school for undocumented students here in Atlanta, and we're really excited to be partnering with this project. The students aren't just informing the content of the mural, but actually helping with the installation. And every week are meeting and focusing their skills on painting and finding ways to communicate their struggle through art. And so through this project, not only students are participating in the painting of the mural, but these conversations, like it has been mentioned many times before, are opportunities for dialogue of conversations across difference, and young people will definitely play a vital role in these conversations. To undocumented students or students, yeah. For me as a teacher, I'm always making sure students understand that they have power as young people. Power not only to change literally the face of their city, but to change the consciousness of all generations. And so I hope that by participating in this, students also recognize their collective power.
Could you describe more specifically what some of the murals will show? I mean, will it be depictions of like civil rights heroes and icons, or will it show events, or what will the murals depict?
Thank you, Andrew. The question is about the depiction of the murals. We don't know yet, and I mean that in frankly in a really proud way. We are not prescriptive about what Atlanta's struggle for civil rights, human rights, and social justice is and should be. I think those partners here, certainly Wonderroot and the host committee, are the engine behind this project, but the stories that really need to be told and will be depicted in the artworks are going to be informed by partners like Freedom University, Boys and Girls Club, Vox Teen Communications, Ebenezer Baptist Church, and the many other partners that we have that will inform the depictions that will exist in the murals.
Will the artists ultimately choose?
The artists will ultimately choose, yes, absolutely.
So then is it going to go through a committee to decide which ones are chosen if they're not already decided yet? Because art is kind of subjective. Somebody might think something's nice, somebody might think it's controversial.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's certainly a journey to ensure that the breadth and diversity of stories and struggles that will come out of these community conversations will live on in these murals and in the communities where the murals will be permanently placed. And in fact, the city of Atlanta is accepting the murals into their permanent public art collection and will take over the conservation and preservation of the artworks. There isn't a committee necessarily that is approving the artworks, but more so it'll be a collaborative process between the partners, our advisory council, and the artists to determine the final artworks that go up.
And I might add, from the host committee perspective, and you hit the nail on the head, art is subjective, and how people look at that, as you said, some can be inspirational, some can be controversial. We understand that this is a sensitive subject and that people may have different feelings at different times about the stories that are being told and the art that's being depicted. But we also think that's a part of that transformation that Chris mentioned of telling that story and letting others hear about the experiences of others. And so we understand that that's a part of it, but we want to embrace that as a part of the change.
So thank you all very much. We're getting close to 11 o'clock, so I want to make these folks available for one-on-one interviews. We're going to do them underneath the tent. We also have members of our community partners who are going to be engaging in those community conversations. We have our teen reporter here from Vox Communications. They are one of our community conversation partners, so one of your young colleagues is actually making this a part of the project. We also have Freedom University, Dr. Soltis, and we have members of Westside Works here. They are another one of our big partners. So one of our artists who is just behind you there, Sheila Pre-Bright, she is one of the muralists who will be developing these works. So thank you all for being here, and now I'm happy to accommodate any other interviews you'd like.
Now the process of understanding the geology of something like that has a lot to do with essentially understanding the history of the fluid mechanics that led to the formation of this structure that then we see today. And then we can, through these models, we can, for example,
potential future application of your results.
There are agents that are added called flocculants to help undesirable substances settle quickly. This would essentially give us a general treatment of how these kind of agents could work in an environmental setting. Yes, that's a very nice question.
Hi, John Taylor with Geekify. Can you tell us more about the samples that you selected? Why the sizes, the sediment types, a little bit more about the materials themselves?
So that was a big part of our experiments that we ran here on Earth before sending the samples up. As I mentioned here, the setup we're lucky enough to be able to use again one that was already in place. So that was the main challenge, to choose what samples to send. This essentially what we found was the area that was likely to give us the strongest payoff in terms of the science. There are many different things we want to investigate: the effects of the minerals, the effects of the salt. We were fortunate that we seem to have made quite a lot of progress on the effect of the salinity, for example, already on Earth. And so we're going to primarily focus on the effect of the different minerals for this mission.
Okay, well, let's thank Paulo and Richard for sharing a little bit about their project. And sometimes referred to as the new hand, our final speaker today comes to us from the Canadian Space Agency and will share with us the updates to the new latching end effector on Canadarm2, the Canadian robot arm aboard the ISS. Please welcome Ked Pawlowski, Canadian ISS Program Manager.
Thanks, Greg. So I'm here to talk to you about actually a number of Canadian interests that we have in this mission. So I'm going to talk a little bit about science. I'll talk about our next crew flight that we're going to have, a Canadian crew member. I'll talk a little bit about the operations, the robotics operations that will be required to support SpaceX-15. And then I'll finish up with talking about the latching end effector. So on the science side of things, Canadian science is highly focused on human health sciences and on crew performance. So we have a number of experiments that are going on the station. Those go over on a long term, multiple crew members, multiple samples. One of the things that we like about the SpaceX vehicle is it has the ability to return stuff back to the ground. So coming back on SpaceX-15, we're going to have some of the blood and plasma samples that are coming back from those experiments. So that's going to be very valuable to us in supporting our science. And our focus on human health sciences is basically very portable to our applications on Earth. We like to look at things like aging, like vascular disease, those kind of things that affect our society. We also look at it from a crew performance point of view, because when we go to Mars, and you'll note that I said when, not if, when we go to Mars, we want to be able to optimize crew performance and be able to have crew on board that are going to be able to best do those missions. So that's the science side of things. From a crew point of view, coming up in December, we'll be launching on Expedition 5859, David Saint-Jacques. So that is going to be our third long-duration spaceflight opportunity for Canada. So that's going to be a pretty big deal for us. One of the things that connects his mission to SpaceX-15 is he's actually going to be launching some of his requested food items are going to be going up on SpaceX-15. So we actually got, I think on the CSA Twitter account last night, we got a question about whether maple syrup was flying up. So I don't think it's actually flying up on this flight. It might be flying up on a subsequent flight. However, there is some maple smoked salmon, crab, lobster. So I don't think David is a big red meat guy. I think he likes his fish. So that's going up on SpaceX-15. So we're looking forward to that mission coming. That's going to be a big deal for us. Next, I wanted to talk about some of the robotics operations. So SpaceX-15 is going to be a vehicle that flies up the station. It doesn't actually dock to the space station. So what we do is we do a free flyer capture using the Canadarm2. Using Canadarm2, this is actually going to be our 30th vehicle that we capture. And basically, the Dragon capsule will fly up close to station, get to about 10 meters, about 30 feet. And then with a crew member on board, we'll actually reach out with the Canadarm2, grapple the vehicle while flying at 25,000 kilometers per hour, and then secure the vehicle, and then we'll maneuver that vehicle in, berth it to the station, and then we can start the process of unloading it. So that's one important part of it, but also we then continue the operations with our other robotic system, which is Dexter.
Hey, all of you are just joining us on the stream. Welcome to Fox 5 Live. We're here on this Thursday, June 28th, streaming a bunch of NASA TV events right now because we're gearing up for SpaceX's pre-launch news conference. It's coming up in just less than an hour now, and it's going to be live. We're going to stream it because they're launching a brand new mission tomorrow morning, Eastern time, about 5:42 a.m. from Cape Canaveral. They'll be launching a Falcon 9 rocket topped with a cargo capsule designed to lift off and go resupply the International Space Station up there. And they're going to do a live news conference about what that's all about. You can actually watch the launch live also on NASA TV or SpaceX on their website. But either way, we're going to be streaming the pre-conference, and this is just some pre-conference talking about some stuff that's going on at NASA. But that is coming up shortly. Other than that, guys, we did unfortunately lose that video footage of the women rally march. They're preparing to get arrested here in DC, marching at the Department of Justice, and they were obviously prepping their rally goers for what it's like to get arrested and what that's going to be like, and what to expect today. So if we get any camera footage of that down there, we're going to make sure we bring that to you, because I believe it's expected to be quite a protest in the middle of downtown. But for now, take a look at this NASA information, this feed, and we'll jump back to Capitol Hill, where I mentioned before the House Judiciary Committee is holding a hearing on the oversight of the FBI and the DOJ during the election 2016. So they're interviewing, they're testifying, or rather Christopher Wray, FBI director, is testifying, as well as Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. They're there to testify before that committee all day. So that is down right now because I believe they're on a quick break. But we'll jump back in there when there is some action. I know it was getting kind of heated in that room earlier. But we'll pop up this volume again, and we'll get ready for this pre-launch conference coming up very shortly in the next hour.
do with their system, we've put a lot of wear and tear on that system. Now, we've had a very good run with the Canadarm2 in terms of nearly 17 years of operations without any real major issues. However, we did get to that point where it's like when if you meet a tradesperson and you shake their hands, you kind of realize that their hands kind of go through a lot of hardship. So after about 17 years of operations, we were starting to notice that we were having a little bit of trouble with our hands, getting a little bit arthritic, if you will. So we had planned to start changing out one of the latching end effectors on the Canadarm2. And actually back last fall in 2017, we happened to have a failure on the other one. So luckily we have spares available on orbit. Did 2 spacewalks back in October, changed out one of the latching end effectors on the Canadarm2. And then in February, we actually made the decision to change the other one. So the good news with that is that Canadarm2 has 2 perfectly functional latching end effectors. Everything's working very well there. That went exceptionally well for us. Now the trick is we want to launch this new latching end effector and put that on station to have an available spare. Because we do the assembly, the maintenance operations, because we do the resupply of the station with the space robotics, and it's a critical system, we always want to be able to protect for a failure. So if we get any kind of random failure or any kind of issue that pops up, we want to have that available spare on orbit and ready for us to swap that in if we need it. And I guess the last point I'll make is SpaceX 15 is also going to be critical for us. And remember I said that we like we like the Dragon vehicles because we can get stuff back down on the ground. Well, the failed latching end effector that we changed out back in October, we actually brought that inside the space station, and we're going to be able to squeeze that into the Dragon capsule and then return that to Earth. We'll get that back down on the ground. We'll fly that back up to Ontario, Canada. Our prime contractor will put it in their capable hands, McDonald, Detweiler and Associates. They're going to refurbish that latching end effector, and then basically with that, we'll have a subsequent available spare that we can use, and that allows us to plan for going to 2024 and hopefully beyond that. And that's about what I had, Greg.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Ken? Right here, please.
When you talked about the ground control release that started on CRS-13, was there anything on the ARM side, any software or anything from the ARM perspective that had to change, or was that all station ground communication side?
It's a little bit of both. So, I mean, in general, we have actually re-architected the entire mobile servicing system, so all of our robotics suite that's on the station. We've probably changed just about everything about it in terms of how we operate and the code that we use to do that. One of the big changes that we did was to implement ground control. The original design of the system, the original concept, it was all going to be crew operated. Once we got into doing that and we saw what the potentials were, we actually changed the software and how we use the system and then started to implement ground control. With that, we had to put in all the different safety protocols, so it's a combination of changes to the software, changes to how we actually do the commanding from the ground, and then of course the communications infrastructure and how we do that to be able to put that together. So it's really a combination of all those pieces that'll allow us to be able to do things like a release, a ground control release.
Anybody else?
I think I forgot to call up my graphics. So I think I have one slide up there with the latching end effector.
Sure, we can bring that up.
We can bring that up while we're looking for questions.
Some of those graphics did come up while you were speaking.
Oh, good. I'm glad people were thinking about that more than I was.
I took a picture of them. So.
There it is.
Yeah.
There you go. Excellent.
So you mentioned some of the food that's going up on this mission for the astronaut in December. I'm kind of curious about the form that some of that food takes. Is it freeze dried, or is it in a pouch that's warmed up, or what's the form of some of that food?
I think you pretty much hit the answer there. It's usually dehydrated, sometimes freeze dried, almost always individually contained and packaged. They portion it out in a couple different ways, so sometimes it's resealable. Usually, I think it's one-off portions.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for just one more question. Go back question. Go ahead.
So you mentioned robotics and focused a lot on Canadarm2, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, how's Dexter doing?
Dexter's actually doing quite well. We launched Dexter in 2008, so we don't yet have the same concerns about its latching end effector. One thing I mentioned, I said we've got a latching end effector on either end of the Canadarm2. We've also got a latching end effector on our mobile base system that travels up and down the main truss of the space station, and we've got a latching end effector on Dexter. So Dexter's latching end effector is doing quite well. We do expect that, as we use that system quite a bit as well, we'll get to the point where we'll have enough cycles on it that we'll start to really kind of closely follow the performance there and look at how things are performing from a friction point of view and such, which are kind of the indicators that we were following with the Canadarm2 leads. Other than that, we've had some minor issues with the hands on Dexter. Dexter uses smaller hands because it does much more precise and dexterous work in terms of operating with the avionics and computer boxes and batteries and such on the outside of the space station. But it's actually doing very, very well. Overall, I would dare say that we've gotten exceptional performance out of our space robotics, just because 17 years into the game for a system that was designed for a 10-year operational life, 15 years on orbit, and with the very few issues that we've had, I think our biggest problems is really about cameras. We've changed a number of cameras. We've got new cameras in the works, and those are actually very nice because we can actually change them out robotically. So that's a case where you're using our own robots to fix our own robots. So it works actually, it's kind of the ideal scenario.
Well, thank you, Ken, for sharing with us today, and we really appreciate it. So this concludes our What's on Board briefing. I would like to thank all of you for being here, and also for all our presenters who shared with you their impact on our mission. If you'd like to follow the launch activities, please go to www.nasa.gov/SpaceX for all launch activities. And coming up next at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on NASA TV, we'll be having our pre-launch news conference for the SpaceX CRS-15 launch. Thank you again for joining us.
All right, guys, as we have this little lull right now for news, unfortunately, we'll just give you a little view of our newsroom here. If you're on our stream, thanks for joining us on Fox 5 Live. I'm Molly Nevola in the newsroom. And guys, it's a gorgeous day out there. You already saw that bump shot of the Capitol Dome. It's beautiful. It's some clouds, so it is a little bit overcast, I guess you could say, but it's hot and sunny, and it's going to be as such this week into the weekend. I know they were saying into this weekend in the DMV area, into the 90s, and pure sun, just heat. No clouds this weekend. So everyone's kind of gearing up to go to the beach and the pool. And if you are going to the beach, check out this live shot actually right now of Ocean City. These cams available to us via oceancitylive.com. They're webcams that they let us use. And this is the boardwalk in Ocean City, if anyone's familiar with it. And you can see the Hotel Monte Carlo oceanfront right there. This is 11th Street and the boardwalk. And you can kind of peep some of these rooftops and the hotels, and you can see already a lot of people out there on the beach, and it's just sort of a nice feeling just to kind of have this shot. This is a live camera in Maryland, so if you're trying to get away to the beach or maybe you can't, at least enjoy this live shot right now, and we'll bring you some breaking news and whatever else is coming in live coming up next. Remember, we do have that SpaceX pre-launch event. They're launching a new cargo capsule into space tomorrow, and they'll be talking about that from I believe Cape Canaveral in Florida, where they'll be doing the launch, and so we'll bring that in live. And then we're going to take a look at our other cameras too, to bring you more of the testimony of the DOJ and the FBI on Capitol Hill coming up soon. But let's just relax and enjoy this beach cam for a little bit, and then we'll come back into news. So obviously a beautiful day over in Ocean City, guys, Ocean City, Maryland. The beach already teeming with tons of people. It's a gorgeous week, and it's going to be even more beautiful this weekend. So if you're in the area, I hope you get to enjoy that. Nice little break from the news for a second, but let's show some of our top stories of the day. Of course, some of the stuff leading is the new decision with SCOTUS. Justice Anthony Kennedy retiring, that opening the door for President Trump to replace that justice going into the summer and the fall. And a couple other top stories that we've been talking about as far as American policy on immigration.
When countries
and what President Trump had to say about some of that at his rally last night in Fargo, North Dakota. Today he'll be in Wisconsin, actually touring a facility in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. So we'll see if we can bring that up live towards the end of the 1 o'clock hour Eastern time. So let's check out some of the top stories of the day before we go to that news conference preempting the very early morning launch for SpaceX tomorrow. So stay with us for that. That's coming up next. Here's some of our top stories.
Don't let the sweeping facade fool you. What's happening now at the Supreme Court is nothing short of an earthquake. 81-year-old Justice Anthony Kennedy, seen for years as the swing vote, the guy you had to win over, is retiring. And President Trump, speaking at a rally in North Dakota last night, made it clear he wants to make the most of it.
We have to pick a great one. We have to pick one that's going to be there for 40 years, 45 years.
And that prospect of a further Trump imprint on the court that could last for decades left Democrats dejected.
This retirement is earth-shattering and gut-wrenching.
And they point to the Republicans' refusal to consider President Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland during the 2016 election year and say the GOP should wait until after the midterms.
Our Republican colleagues in the Senate should follow the rule they set in 2016. Not to consider a Supreme Court justice in an election year.
But Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who controls the calendar, isn't likely to budge.
We will vote to confirm Justice Kennedy's successor this fall.
And there are plenty of names floating around, nearly any of which will run into Democratic opposition, but they can only do so much. And President Trump has learned just this week how big of a deal this is, with his earlier appointee, Neil Gorsuch, helping to chalk up victories on the administration's travel ban, a decision limiting union power, and another in favor of anti-abortion groups.
So Trump now knows both the political force of this decision and the practical agenda force of this decision.
And remember, in the Senate now, you just need a simple majority to confirm a Supreme Court pick, and Republicans have that, 51 to 49. So there is not much wiggle room here for the GOP. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
We will begin our search for a new justice of the United States Supreme Court that will begin immediately.
As the country is still reeling from Justice Anthony Kennedy's retirement announcement, all eyes now turn to the president and what comes next.
I'm very honored that he chose to do it during my term in office because he felt confident in me to make the right choice and carry on his great legacy.
The president says he will choose a nominee from his published list of 25 conservative judges. The current frontrunners are all from the appellate courts: Brett Kavanaugh from the D.C. Circuit, the 7th Circuit's Amy Coney Barrett, Thomas Hardiman of the 3rd Circuit, Raymond Ketledge, and Amul Thapar, both from the 6th Circuit. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate will vote on the nominee this fall, but that would be right before the midterm elections. And with so much at stake, Democrats are already gearing up for a huge battle.
We should not allow a justice in an election year. We should not allow a justice who doesn't believe in women's rights, who doesn't believe in the fabric of this country. The battle lines have been drawn. Which side are you on?
Maintaining Kennedy's legacy with his replacement is a tricky task because Justice Kennedy's decisions were unpredictable. Many people are seeing this as President Trump's chance to replace a swing vote with a true conservative, which could change the trajectory of the courts for generations. At the Supreme Court, Doug McElway, Fox News.
When countries abuse us by sending their people up, not their best, we're not going to give any more aid to those countries. Why the hell should we?
After decades of foreign aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, critics wonder what that money bought.
We are working on an infrastructure in the Northern Triangle. Let's continue with that policy.
Advocates say U.S. aid to Central American countries promotes economic progress and reduces violence, thereby cutting illegal immigration. But is that accurate?
In Honduras, we just can't live there anymore because of the gangs.
Apprehensions from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador peaked in 2015. After a slight decline, agents say arrests and asylum claims in 2018 are up again, despite more U.S. aid.
I really think that just giving money to those governments to try and
solve their problems, I don't think that would be productive.
In the last decade, U.S. taxpayers sent billions to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Yet all three remain among the poorest in Latin America, while bribery, corruption, and murder rates rank among the world's worst.
These families are seeking asylum, protection from unimaginable prosecution and persecution and violence.
Conditions down there are quite horrible, that the violence is quite bad, but at the same time, it is not the responsibility of the United States to solve the problems of other countries.
U.S. aid is supposed to get young people out of gangs and into the workforce. Instead, they're leaving in droves, creating a crisis on the border.
Now think of all that aid that we give some of these countries.
While the president wants to cut aid next year, some in Congress want to double it. Others argue without more accountability, more money from Washington is throwing good money after bad.
Until there is a serious focus by the administration, a serious focus by Congress to really delve into this, we're not going to see the crisis at our border stop.
So the missing link in all this is Mexico, which elects a new president on Sunday, a leftist candidate who's already expressed solidarity with migrants hoping to enter the United States. Vice President Pence on Thursday meets with Central American leaders in Guatemala. His message: cooperate to reduce illegal immigration or face consequences. In Mexico City, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
An earthquake for Democrats as a powerful congressman potentially in line to replace Nancy Pelosi as party leader, Joe Crowley, lost his primary to a newcomer. 28-year-old socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a disciple of Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, who says she wants Medicare for all, so-called free tuition for college students, and wants to abolish ICE, which protects the nation's borders.
Gone is the party of JFK. Here is the party of radical socialism.
Pelosi was in a race of her own today to insist Crowley's turf in Queens, New York is so liberal, it does not mean bigger trouble nationally.
They made a choice in one district, so let's not get yourself carried away.
Except Pelosi said the opposite in 2014, when Republican Majority Leader Eric Cantor lost his primary.
The Republican Party going even further to the right.
The question for Pelosi now is whether the blue wave she's hyping for a November takeover of the House is starting to boomerang, as Republicans get fired up by the tilt to the left, which includes Democrat Maxine Waters calling for more protests and verbal attacks targeting aides to President Trump.
There was a time in America's history where you could be denied service in a restaurant based on the color of your skin. Now, apparently, it's the color of your voter registration card.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to talk about civility, you start with the President of the United States.
In New York, Ocasio-Cortez had a much more uplifting message about a working mom with limited money, and a young Latina taking out a party boss thrilled Bernie Sanders.
We're seeing a whole lot of young people getting involved in Our Revolution organization, getting involved in grassroots campaigning.
That energy is a good sign for Democrats in safe liberal seats, but it could get more complicated in moderate House districts and red Senate seats, as the GOP base, already amped up by the retirement of Justice Anthony Kennedy, will get frequent reminders about socialist rising.
It was a stunning development. The energy in the Democratic Party is self-avowed socialist, open borders.
The biggest boost for the GOP base may come from the fact that Crowley's ouster makes it more likely Pelosi will stay on as either Speaker or Minority Leader, so she will remain front and center in Republican attack ads this fall. In Washington, Ed Henry, Fox News. All right, 3, 2, 1. The biggest boost for the GOP base may come from the fact that Crowley's ouster makes it more likely Pelosi will stay on as either Speaker or Minority Leader, so she'll remain front and center in Republican attack ads this fall. In Washington, Ed Henry, Fox 7 Austin News.
All right, guys, I want to flip it over now to one live video that we just have coming in. Vice President Pence is in Ecuador to talk trade. He stopped in Ecuador on the way back from visiting some of the migrant facilities down in South America, and he was sort of making this Latin American trip. And he's speaking now, and it looks like it's just come up. So we're going to check into that and see what he's talking about.
información no es suficiente para solucionar esta crisis. Se va a solucionar una vez que Venezuela sea libre. El presidente Trump dijo muy claramente que Estados Unidos no se va a quedar en las márgenes mientras se desgrana Venezuela. Hay que restablecer la democracia y hemos impuesto sanciones en Caracas. Y como nosotros discutimos hoy, nosotros respetuosamente instamos a Ecuador y a todos nuestros aliados en la región a que tomen pasos para aislar el régimen de Maduro aún más. No es el momento de palabras, tenemos que actuar y tenemos que tomar acciones decisivas para restaurar la democracia en Venezuela. Señor presidente, este nuevo mundo siempre iba a ser un continente de la libertad. Y la historia va a demostrar en este momento quién defendió la libertad del pueblo venezolano en estos momentos. Le agradezco su liderazgo tan sólido sobre este tema y espero que sigamos expandiendo nuestras asociaciones para restaurar la democracia para el beneficio del pueblo venezolano. Con su apoyo y el compromiso de las naciones de este continente y del mundo, yo creo que los venezolanos van a poder retomar su derecho a la libertad. Como dijo Simón Bolívar tan claramente, aquellos que aman la libertad van a ser libres. Y yo sé que los venezolanos, al igual que su pueblo y mi pueblo, quieren la libertad. Señor presidente, muchísimas gracias por habernos recibido tan amablemente el día de hoy. Vamos a dejar su país en breves momentos para viajar a Guatemala, donde nos vamos a reunir con sus pares para ver cuáles son los desafíos que ellos enfrentan y también, ya que algunos de sus desafíos están causando repercusiones en los Estados Unidos. Pero cuando estoy listo para irme, quiero expresarle mi admiración por usted, por su valor, por su coraje, por su visión y también por su compromiso para renovar la relación y la amistad entre nuestros países. En el futuro queremos asegurarles que vamos a trabajar de manera mancomunada para tener un futuro libre para ambos países. Mi esposa y yo realmente nos llamó poderosamente la atención la belleza de su país, Ecuador, y de su ciudad capital. Es realmente inspirador, día, noche. También nos llamó muchísimo la atención, como dijimos ayer, cuál es la herencia de la fe en Ecuador. Cuando fui a Campana hoy, y la cantidad de iglesias que ustedes tienen acá demuestran la base de fe del pueblo ecuatoriano, lo cual me da mucha confianza. Con su liderazgo en esta nación y con la base de la fe, yo sé que su pueblo va a disfrutar la libertad en el futuro, en esta gran nación. Porque, como dice la Biblia, cuando está el Espíritu de Dios, tenemos libertad. Y la libertad siempre vence. Y siempre y cuando tengamos una base de fe, así que viendo cuál es el futuro, el pasado que nos reúne y cuál es el futuro para nuestros pueblos. Y yo sé que los lazos entre ambos países se van a solidificar y que el futuro es lo mejor para ambos países. Así que, señor presidente, muchísimas gracias. Dios lo bendiga a usted, a la primera dama. Dios bendiga a Ecuador y Dios bendiga a los Estados Unidos de América. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, muy amable. Enseguida interviene el señor presidente constitucional de la República de Ecuador, Lenín Moreno. Señor vicepresidente,
Mr. Vice President,
su estimada comitiva,
your committee here, please receive
el abrazo fraterno,
our brotherly affection for the Ecuadorian people, who like very much the American people for many reasons we've referred to already. I would like to thank you, Mr. Vice President, for this official visit to our country. Undoubtedly, it's been a very productive encounter. Today, we've opened a new way to relate both nations.
by ratifying the strong links and bonds our people together. Our common agenda, Mr. Vice President, aims at a common interest. That's why we coincided on the importance that strengthening our relations has in economy, trade, development, security, migration matters that we talked about. We have promising coincidences. We've agreed to increase, facilitate bilateral or two-way trade that create the well-being and employment for our two countries. We would like to thank your willingness, Mr. Vice President, to make vital these financing possibilities of Ecuador by strengthening dialogue with the multilateral organizations, because we've recognized the importance of the actions taken by our government to promote private investment, economic growth. On our behalf, we reiterate the appreciation of Ecuador for the renewal of the generalized preference system. Whatsoever, we proposed to have access without tariffs to the U.S. market of Ecuadorian products such as flowers, broccoli.
This is SpaceX's third resupply mission for NASA, where we're flying both a flight-proven Falcon 9 as well as a previously flown Dragon spacecraft. This Falcon 9 booster previously supported the NASA TESS Planet Finder mission just over 2 months ago. This will also be the final Block 4 configuration of a Falcon 9 booster that SpaceX flies. So all the boosters from here on out will be the Block 5 version. This Dragon completed the CRS-9 mission in July of 2016. During that mission, it delivered the International Docking Adapter to the space station, and that is the port that all future commercial crew vehicles will use. For the remainder of the CRS-1 contract, which is through CRS-20, the plan is to use refurbished Dragons. Then on CRS-21, we move on to the CRS-2 contract. That's where we're going to use the Dragon 2 vehicle, which is the same vehicle as commercial crew. So what we'll basically be doing is changing out seats and consoles for cargo accommodations. This is SpaceX's 12th launch of 2018 and our 9th use of a flight-proven booster this year alone, and it's only been 6 months. It's definitely an exciting time. We're launching on average every 2 weeks, and we're flying more flight-proven boosters than we're flying new vehicles. So we've been able to increase our launch cadence thanks to the advances we've made in reusability and the large number of boosters that we have successfully landed. To date, we have successfully landed 25 first-stage boosters. So from the get-go, SpaceX has set out to make spaceflight more like commercial air travel. We want to make it safe, affordable, and utilizing vehicles that can be reflown repeatedly. This is the key to the future of a civilization where we have thousands to millions of people exploring the stars and living out on other planets. So tomorrow's mission, you can always think of it as one small step towards that goal, from the launch itself to the critical space science cargo we're delivering to the space station. So I'd like to close by thanking our partners at the Air Force Range and the FAA for their tremendous support. Also, a huge thanks to NASA. We are obviously honored to have this partnership to carry their most critical cargo. So we are looking forward to a successful launch tomorrow, as well as many more in the future.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Now we'll pass it over to Mike and find out how the weather looks.
All right, good afternoon. Well, it is summertime in Central Florida, so we've had a 3 or 4 day reprieve of thunderstorms over the spaceport, as most of it's been inland, but I think today is going to end that little run. We have the west coast sea breeze moving over towards us today, and I think it will be in the area maybe 3 or 4 o'clock, and we'll have the normal afternoon thunderstorms on our side of the peninsula starting today. In addition, if we can go to satellite, you can kind of see that area starting and moving across the state at this time. We'll probably grow some of our own thunderstorms, as the sea breeze is not going to make it too far inland. And just on the northern edge of the picture, you might be able to make out an extra feature, a little upper level trough that's pushing in. And that's going to maybe add some oomph to the thunderstorms later this evening and make them possibly last a little bit longer than is typical. So next, we should go to our launch slide. Still, as everybody's been alluding to, 5:42 in the morning is a great time for southwest flow. Even with that upper level trough, model's been very consistent, showing that all that debris cloud should be cleared out and diminished for launch time. We have to be particularly unlucky to have all that kind of come together as some kind of extra outflows and still be lingering around at launch time. So that's really what the 10% is trying to indicate, is that if something really unlucky happens, that we'll still have those clouds around at 5:42 tomorrow morning. Other than that, on our 48-hour delay slide, we have the ridge axis moving back up to our north, which typically is a good sign for thunderstorms. Our flow switches from southwest that pins our sea breeze up against our coast to a more of an easterly flow. But with that ridge movement is a little boundary, and that's going to come through, unfortunately, right around backup launch time. So we have a chance of thick clouds with that. It's not really diurnally influenced, so it's when the timing of that ridge moves. So a 30% chance, still pretty good, but we'll have that thick cloud as our main concern for that backup day. So thank you. We'll see what those clouds diminish this afternoon. We'll have some rumbles for sure, but hopefully get the vehicle vertical quicker versus later.
Great, thank you. And David Brady from Program Science Office, could you talk to us a little bit about the science and investigations that will be facilitated with this delivery?
Stephanie. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This mission will continue the International Space Station's goals of scientific discovery, benefits for humanity, and exploration of the cosmos. The space station conditions provide the type of conditions we need to do groundbreaking research, including microgravity, and a vantage point that provides a very good, useful platform for our Earth and our space science folks. This particular mission enables 27 new investigations to become part of the over 300 investigations that will be running over Expeditions 55 and 56. This brings us to a grand total of 2,600 investigations, representing over 3,000 researchers and over 1,500 publications so far. In the area of research, in the research area of biology and biotechnology, I just want to highlight a few of the investigations that are going on this flight. The NGX cancer therapy investigation evaluates whether endothelial cells represent a valid model to test the effect of vascular targeted agents on normal blood vessels. This investigation may result in a cost-effective method that does not require animal testing and which may develop safer and more effective vascular targeted drugs. The Rodent Research 7 investigation, which is part of our Rodent Research series of investigations, examines how the space environment affects the community of microorganisms in the gastrointestinal tract. It also looks at the microgravity's effect on physiological systems that are known to be affected by these microorganisms, including the immune system and the circadian and sleep systems. The space algae investigation explores the genetic basis for productivity of algae cultivated in space. The cultivation of algae offers potential as a system for recycling carbon dioxide, which is one of the things we need in our life support systems. And it also potentially could provide food for crew members on long space voyages. So it's another benefit of this investigation, or potential benefit. Many of these species synthesize oils that are important for human nutrition. So we're looking forward to seeing what we get out of the biology and biotechnology research items on this flight. Moving on to the area of research in Earth and space science, the German Space Agency, or DLR, Earth Sensing Imaging Spectrometer, or DSIS investigation will verify and enhance the use of space-based hyperspectral imaging capabilities for Earth remote sensing. The instrument has a number of commercial and environmental management applications, including the management and monitoring of agricultural resources, forest ecosystems, and soil degradation. In addition, it can be used for urban development applications and inland water monitoring for things like pollution. In the research area of physical science, the Advanced Colloids Experiment Temperature 2, or ACE-T2, is part of our ACE series of investigation on colloids. This particular experiment is looking at the assembly of complex structures from micron-scale colloidal particles, and regulating the temperature helps enable the control of the particle interaction, and this leads to the growth of complex structure and provides a better understanding of how these complex interactions lead to these complex structures. And finally, in the research area of technology development, I'm sure that y'all have all heard about the pilot study with the Crew Interactive Mobile Companion, or SIMON. This is a technology demonstration project as well as an observational study that aims to provide the first insights into the effects on crew support by an artificial intelligent device, AI device, in terms of efficiency and acceptance during long-term missions in space. Thank you.
That's fascinating. Thank you. So we will now take some questions in the room and then go to questions on the phone. So Ken, do you want to get us started?
rockets down in space up close. For Kirk, you brought up the commercial crew. Can you tell us what is the latest schedule for the uncrewed and the crewed test flight? And Jessica, can you specifically talk about yours? Thanks.
Yeah, the answer is no. I can't tell you. I wish I could. I don't. So I just don't know. So there's a lot of work, as you know. The companies are working very, very hard to finish the design and certification of their vehicles. So both companies are in various stages of that work. There's, in addition to actually manufacturing and doing environmental tests, there's analytical verification, and then NASA participates in all those things. Then there's launch processing and so on. So I can tell you that the Commercial Crew Program, the International Space Station Program, Boeing and SpaceX are all working very closely together. We're evaluating exactly when opportunities might be and when they'll be ready, but we're not ready to set a date, an official date, I would say, at this point in time. We're working to that. I think it's close to when we'll be able to do it. It's just at this point in time, it's not solid enough.
All right, guys, a little taste of that SpaceX pre-launch conference talking about Falcon 9. They're launching a new cargo capsule to space tomorrow, and that's going to all be live on, if you're up that early, that is, it's 5:42 a.m. East Coast time, and you can watch it on SpaceX's website or on NASA TV there. But kind of cool just to get the rehashing of what's going on with them and what that's going to be all about, and space exploration obviously becoming a big hot thing. President Trump even mentioning he might want to make an agency dedicated to it. So it's a hot topic, and it's something that I know a lot of you guys are interested in. So pulling away from that, we have a couple other feeds coming in right now. I mentioned on the House, or rather not the House floor, but in Congress today, the House Judiciary Committee is hearing testimony from Christopher Wray, FBI Director, who is up at the stand now, actually. If I flip it over there he is. And also Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He's there answering questions. Like I mentioned earlier, it was getting a little bit heated in the early morning hours. This is going on all day, and I believe they just got back from their lunch break. So we'll check back into there to kind of see what's going on. But I also want to show you this backdrop here, this bump shot for this Wisconsin event. I mentioned President Trump speaking in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. It's going to be sort of an economic overview, remarks at this Foxconn facility. It's a groundbreaking event for this Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, Foxconn. And it's a new plant. And they received what was said to be, reported to be a controversial $4 billion in tax breaks to build it there. So accordingly, this event is about business, economics, tax breaks, and Donald Trump is going to be attending this ceremony, as well as Governor Scott Walker, governor of Wisconsin, who helped to arrange some of these incentives to woo that company. So I believe what's going on here is possibly some sort of pre-event having to do with this company, and then President Trump will be there to make remarks. So we'll try to bring that in when that happens. A little background on this facility, on this company. In general, Foxconn is promising to hire 13,000 workers to place in its North American corporate headquarters, which is here, and it's nearby to Milwaukee. And so again, there was sort of that question of, was this controversial because of tax breaks, et cetera? And then, he'll talk about some of the stats of Wisconsin's unemployment rate, and about the state in general. So it's going to be President Trump with the governor talking about these jobs and this company. And so we'll check into this in just a moment. Let's bring up some volume and kind of see what they're talking about before President Trump and the governor makes an appearance. And if anything else seems a little bit more interesting, I'll pull that video for you instead. And we'll, if all else fails, we'll give you this gorgeous beach shot of Ocean City, Maryland, a live look at the beach on this hot summer week. And always a nice relaxer to kind of just envision jumping into the screen. All right, we'll go back to Wisconsin for now and listen into this sort of pre-conference to the event, and then we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, guys.
You practically have the whole alphabet.
Foxconn.
Well done. Nice, Colonel. So I guess the average Wisconsinite, maybe sitting at home watching, is wondering, well, I have no expertise in artificial intelligence. Just like the Lieutenant Governor, I had to Google what TFT Fab was as well. So who are you looking for in an employee? And even if they don't work for Foxconn proper, Is there a place for them in the supply chain or the customer chain? Because the rumor on the street is that there will be an additional number of jobs created simply because of Foxconn's investment here.
Yes, ma'am. I think you're touching a little bit on the labor force that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And we've used the term enabler here today. And I guess if our guests were to walk away, that I would like them to walk away with that term, because this initiative is an enabler in so many functional areas, and jobs is one of them. That workforce of 70% knowledge, 30% basic skills certainly covers a broad spectrum of the available workforce here. And then the tertiary jobs that we discussed, from the supply chain to the service support, and the jobs that we discussed here from Jonathan in the local area that will be a support to the overall campus and the support to the functions that exist here. I believe there is absolute opportunity in every category for the people of Wisconsin and Racine County.
Now, Colonel, you gave us a cool flyover hologram right behind you. I don't know whether you saw it, but while you were talking, all of us were really impressed. And those of us who have not gotten the up-close view of either the hologram or the campus diorama outside probably are curious about some of the neat features that you have. Someone who is an observer of architecture may observe that you have green roofs and white roofs, both very energy efficient. You have so many ponds and lakes and lagoons that you have built into the campus. First of all, how did you come upon those types of features? And then second of all, for all of you, which is your favorite? It's tough to choose, but I've got to go with that Tron-looking circle that you have at the headquarters building where you're going to have the transporter in the middle.
Sure, yes, this is about being a smart city and a smart future. So we're tying the industrial element to the life element, to the work element, to the play element, the entertainment element, all together as a smart city and smart future. Part of that is autonomous vehicle and the efficient movement of personnel throughout the campus, and also the opportunity to do research and development with autonomous vehicles, one of which you have the opportunity to see in the showcase today, because the panels associated with that are one of our technologies. So this is very much about leading technology, enhancing the experience in every category, and that this whole ecosystem functions well together based on that concept.
But what's your favorite? Is it the autonomous vehicle route in the campus?
I'm a pilot, so it's the autonomous vehicle.
All right. Thanks, Colonel. Dr. Young, what about you?
Well, I think the campus, as you can see here, is almost 3,000 acres. I think the ability to touch different verticals, industries, and leverage our partners all the way to northeastern part of Wisconsin. And I recall from the Marathon County just a week ago, they were actually instrumental for the construction and the parks for the storm water management system that we're going to build down here. And in the past with I-94, I think we have a lot more to look forward to a Smart City, Smart Future initiative that Foxconn had started. It's a 3-year program that we work with higher education, the UW system, the private colleges, and all the technical colleges in Wisconsin. They all have their own version of Smart City and Smart Future. What they rendition, what they're thinking would help us to build our collective future. I think we want to tap into their mind, tap into their creativity to put together something that I think we all will enjoy and all will actually find it sustainable, efficient, and also cost-effective.
So you like it all?
I think so. I think that maybe we can make it even bigger, Jonathan.
I'm all for it.
Jonathan, are you concerned at all that once people enter the Foxconn campus, they're just never going to leave? I mean, the guys are telling me there's going to be entertainment there, there's going to be health care there, you can live there, you can work there.
That would be a great problem to have, so absolutely, let's hope that's the case. But what's really exciting for me is, in terms of the Wisconn Valley project, is people are going to come up from Kenosha County or come from the north in Milwaukee County, and I can't wait to see that development along our brand new freeway system that we're going to have in the next couple of years, and see what Racine County is and how transformative it is, and just where we came from and what it is now. I think people are going to be really, really surprised and excited. So that's going to be the favorite part for me.
Professor Lee, do you have a favorite?
Well, I truly believe a industry-university collaboration. I believe the industry is a problem-rich environment. University is a brain-rich environment, intellectual-rich. So when you have a science park or science technology corridor, you create strong collaboration. So I use the term called collaboration laboratory. That collaboratory really is a place where people can come in, bring the technology, and try the real-world problems, rather to do try-and-error approach. And the entire Wisconsin Valley will give the opportunity to young people to grow, to sustain. Right? That's what I believe is the future.
I don't know, Dr. Lee. This is pretty impressive. I think we've just witnessed the coining of a brand new term, collaboratory. First, industrial AI, collaboratory today. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? And I think that's kind of where we all are on the Foxconn development here in Wisconsin. We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. We know it is going to be huge, though. But I think that is probably the more 30,000-foot view. Who knows what amazing things will occur, what incredible inventions we can't even imagine today will happen right here, even perhaps where we are seated. But we do want to know what happens immediately next. I mean, obviously, probably in under about 5 minutes, we'll be joining the President of the United States and Terry Go, as well as Governor Scott Walker for that groundbreaking. But we want to know what happens next after the groundbreaking. Obviously, there are going to be a few more shovels of dirt turned.
Yes, and absolutely. Obviously, the excavation has already begun, and the groundbreaking will begin momentarily here, and I know we're all excited about that. The phase one, as I talked about earlier, the complexity of the development and the functional areas of development require the phases to be used. Phase one itself will be the TFT fabrication, thin film transistor, thin film.
I told you it was hard.
It's hard to get out. Thin film transistor, TFT fabrication facility will be phase one. And that, along with the 8K medical area, will comprise 2,700,000 square feet. So as our community watches this construction occurring, that's what you'll see go up initially, phase one.
Dr. Young, I think people are curious because over the course of the project and the stories that we have all read or watched on television, the mission of Foxconn here in Wisconsin has kind of expanded. I think initially people got to know the company as the new neighbor by looking down at their phone and saying, I understand that technology, I have it right here in my hand. But then when you walk the trade show floor, you realize that your investment here is actually going to be so much more expansive than your simple phone screen or even your TV screen. Now we're talking about healing technologies and healthcare technologies that will no doubt be exported around the world. Do you have any hopes or visions for what might be next, in addition to what we trust will come, you know, the screens, and now you're adding, obviously, the ZAP technology. What else can we imagine for the future?
Well, I think for the display technologies, you can maybe building on what Pete just said, we're going to be focusing on mini LED, micro LED, QLED, and also the new generation of OLED. You can talk about biochips, you can talk about MEMS or low Earth orbit antenna, things that it can do.
What is a low Earth orbit antenna?
I think these are solutions or products that allow you to communicate based on very thin film technology, ability to really put transistor on glass or using semiconductor to really create very micro, very mini devices individually. Those are the things that actually are cutting edge in the world. In the past, because your fab is in Asia, you have to go there to do design and development application. Now we can do it here because we're not going to wait for 2 or 3 years. We're going to start building those solutions and working the designs. At the same time, we also are looking at solutions and applications that we can span across the state. Our Wisconsin First policy not only applies to manufacturing, it also applies to R&D. I mentioned earlier that we have a base here in Racine County. We have an innovation center and our North America headquarters in Milwaukee. In the weeks and months to come, we hope to be able to mention and announce more locations across the state where we can actually create more innovation centers and so-called Foxconn Place, but also create more jobs.
So does that make you jealous, Jonathan, or does that make you excited for your colleague county executives around Wisconsin?
Well, I'll just say that as a county executive, I want to be as greedy as possible and make sure that Racine County gets all the development and opportunity that we can. But in reality, this is a vision. It's a southeastern Wisconsin. It's a statewide vision that the governor had. And we want to make sure that everybody in our region, and as well as my fellow county executives, can benefit from this project as well.
I want to add on to that. When we were traveling, and a few of my colleagues last year, in May, June, this time last year, one thing that we did notice in Wisconsin is the collaboration. Through the help of MMAC, M7, other organizations such as RCEDC in Racine County, we not only find out and learn more about Racine County, we also learn more about the other 6 counties. We find out the officials across different county lines actually work together. And I recall a conversation in Milwaukee where we actually asked for and tried to find out whether Milwaukee County or the city of Milwaukee had 750 acres. The answer was, well, we don't, but we're here to support the efforts to win the project. That's the kind of collaboration that we've been very impressed. We have seen UWM and Marquette now working together. We see UW Parkside, UW Milwaukee, and UW-Madison really forming alliances together across UW system, and also the technical college like Gateway, and also going to WCTC. Those are the examples that really give us very, very great encouragement that we actually chose well, and we hope Wisconsin think and feels that they have selected well as well to have Foxconn here.
Dr. Young, I can assure you we feel the exact same way. Would you join me in assuring these gentlemen they have made the right choice to be right here in Wisconsin? Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We could not be more delighted for the moment that is about to happen. So if you turn your attention to the screens, the groundbreaking is about to begin.
I won't be able to get them until they clear the
You got a couple of Oh yeah. Yeah. Bruno. Steve. Joined. Sorry. Right, I remember him. I think Robert goes back with materials, yes.
Potential instances of human trafficking where somebody shows up, claims to be a family unit, and then we find out that the children are in no way, not even a close relation to the adult in custody. And if those would have made it through, we don't know. They could have gone into some form of human trafficking. So we do prevent that. As Mr. Karras said, we give the utmost care all coming in. We had a female that was 16 years old, was raped on the journey up from Central America. She had the baby here in our custody. We took her to the hospital, stayed with her the whole time. She did not have a family with her. So we do give the utmost care.
So how often we see the children crossing alone without, an adult?
In Arizona since October 1st of 2017. At the ports of entry, the legal crossings, we've had 1,100 unaccompanied alien children enter into the Arizona ports of entry.
Put this photograph out in front of you, Mrs. Trump, so that you can see this 6-year-old boy was left in the desert out near Lukeville, Arizona. You can see that he's got a Coke bottle. You can see he's got a note in his hand. We actually did a press release on this because people also have to understand the dangers of the desert, of the heat, of the violence that exists out there. So this is something that our people encounter on a daily basis, is seeing children that are put in, and families in very dangerous situations.
It's incredible, as young as 6 years old, somebody would live through. Wow, very sad.
And in addition to all that, at the legal ports of entry, we facilitate trade and lawful entry of people. So people coming into our cities with foreign money to spend money here. So we have to facilitate that along with our anti-terrorism and our bringing in trade. So CBP collected over $40 billion in duties and taxes for the government budget last year. Nogales Port of Entry, which is just an hour from here, is the largest port of entry for the entry of vegetables into the U.S. market nationwide. So we play a very important part in that, along with processing of migrants, along with the enforcement of opioids. We've seized in just the Nogales Port of Entry this year over 2,000 kilograms of methamphetamines and several kilograms of fentanyl coming in, trying to make entry into the U.S. Thank you for coming out, and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, you'll next hear from David Gonzalez, who's the U.S. Marshal here in Arizona.
Good morning, welcome to Arizona. I'm David Gonzalez. I represent the United States Marshal Service for the District of Arizona. And the U.S. Marshal Service is the oldest federal law enforcement agency, created in 1789. But besides our primary function of arresting violent fugitives around the world and managing the Witness Protection Program, one of our primary jobs is the care, the handling, and maintaining of all the federal prisoners that have been charged by the U.S. Attorney's Office. All the hard work that Rudy's people do, let's say, for example, today they arrest 300 people on the border. He can maybe officially charge through the U.S. Attorney's Office maybe 75 of those, okay? And the rest are handled administratively by ICE. Now, I get those 75 prisoners into the Tucson courthouse in downtown. And we have processed those prisoners. They go to court, and a lot of those are sentenced the same day to streamline the project. And they are sentenced what we call STSers, short-term sentencing. Some are charged or sentenced to time served and released to be deported. Others might get 30, 60, 90, 80 days in jail, depending how many times they've been arrested before. And then we put those people to serve their short-term sentence in several facilities, usually in the southern Arizona area. And besides just housing them, we take care of their healthcare issues, which can be very expensive. A lot of the individuals, border patrol arrest, have medical issues that we take care of. We do a lot of surgeries. We have nurses and doctors at these facilities to examine them, and we take great pride in doing everything we can to maintain the health and stability of the federal prisoners that we receive that are charged federally. The majority that come from the Border Patrol. For example, here in Arizona, last fiscal year, for approximately 15,000 prisoners that are just immigration charges that were processed through here. Nationally, there have been about 58,000 prisoners charged federally through the system by the U.S. Attorney's Office. It is estimated that we'll get about 90,000 this fiscal year from the hard work that the Border Patrol does.
Thank you.
Ma'am, next you're going to hear from Jesse Williams, who is the Deputy Field Operations Director for ICRO.
Good morning, Mr. Trump. My agency is responsible for the interior enforcement of immigration laws, and also we run detention facilities where we take care for these families that are being detained, and also for the adults. And we do provide a full spectrum of services. We do have 2 family residential centers where we have a full complement of medical, and also we have a school system that goes from K through 12. Initially, these family units are detained for less than 20 days on average, maybe 6 or 7 days. During that time, their children are fully cared for, inoculated, and they go through the immigration court process. We do have 2 adult detention facilities here in Arizona, and my office is responsible for the full state of Arizona.
Great, thank you.
And we also have Dan Bell, who's here, a local rancher in Arizona. His family's been here for a long time.
So thank you for coming, Mrs. Trump. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to our concerns. I'm going to put a little different spin on things. Our family's been ranching on that same piece of country down in Nogales, Arizona, just west of the city of Nogales, since 1938. So I'm a 3rd generation. I'm raising the 4th generation. We operate between the ports of entry, so we have 10 miles of actual international boundary with Mexico. And I'm here today to advocate for more access along the border. We operate on federal lands where we ranch, and there really is no access to the international boundary. But the positive things that we've seen over time is access has been garnered in certain areas, and we've gotten a bollard fence installed on a 2-mile section. Another 2 miles, we've had a road installed where technology was placed, which allows the boots on the ground to get closer to the border to do their job. But I guess my message to you would be there would be no silver bullet to take care of the situation. It's what Chief Karras talked about. We need to have the ability to get to the border. We need to have the ability to have the boots on the ground to make the apprehensions. We need to have the judicial mechanisms in place. We need to have the consequence programs. All of that needs to come together so we can make a difference. And where we've seen this happen over time with the Tucson sector, where the judicial mechanisms have been applied and consequences have been applied, and we see the rate of recidivism way down. We see less traffic coming through. But that's not to say that the issue is over, because there's still about 6 miles of our ranch and my neighbor's ranches to further west and other neighbors' ranches to the east, where a lot of this traffic has been pushed as a result of the ability to stop it. So we still need a lot to do in that respect. And coming from a small community of Nogales, you heard we rely on legal trade coming through that port of entry. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that our community relies on the legal trade coming through those ports of entry. And so anything, message you can take back would be greatly appreciated.
Well done, thank you.
Now, Mrs. Trump, I actually want to point you to Joy Silva. She's one of our agents out here in Tucson, so you can hear from her perspective of someone who goes out there every day to perform her job, her encounters with people, different situations. So, Joyce.
Good morning, Mrs. Trump.
Good morning.
I've been a Border Patrol agent for over 20 years. I'm originally from New York City, and I moved to Tucson to join the Border Patrol. And I love my job. And as a mother, it hurts to see the children. They don't really know what's going on. And so our main concern is to remove them from that element of the desert, that dangerous element, and bring them to a safe environment where they have food, water, toys if they want it, and just take care of them. There's a lot of parents in the Border Patrol, and we really care for the children. And there's a lot of agents that take out to the field extra food and extra toys. We've given them our lunch also out there in the field because they need it and they don't really understand what's going on.
Yes, thank you so much for all what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions that you may have, you can either do it now, or we'll have also time as we're walking through the facilities. So I definitely want to thank all of you for attending today. I think this is very beneficial, is to have you here, is to see firsthand the challenges that we go through. Immigration enforcement is a very complex issue, and I think we all need to come together is to try to solve this issue. So thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you very much.
sake of our country, that you both remain strong and faithful to the oath that you've taken, no matter how much bullying you endure in an effort to persuade you to violate this sacred responsibility, whether it be by way of letter, by way of contempt threats, by way of resolutions, or public hearings such as this. I was particularly disturbed to hear the chairman of the committee say the FBI and the DOJ are not in the Constitution, but the president and Congress are, and you must yield to us. Well, I remind the chairman respectfully, and I remind both of you gentlemen, you must not yield to us to the extent that doing so would require you to violate your oath to defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. And I hope that is the sentiment of everyone on this committee. Of course, we're having an emergency hearing about the Clinton emails. We're not having an emergency hearing on the corruption in this administration, the conflicts of interest and violations of the Emoluments Clause, the election security, which is so essential for our upcoming election, the family separation policy, which is ripping children from their parents, the failure to pass the DREAM Act or address the scourge of gun violence in America. But we're having another hearing about the Clinton email server. And you know, I spent many years as a criminal defense lawyer. It would have been a really clever and very useful thing if I had the ability to demand information about an ongoing investigation during the course of that investigation. I never thought to do that because, of course, it's so obvious you are not entitled to that. And so this notion of making these demands in the hopes that you will continue to honor your oaths and deny them, and they will use that as a pretext, as Mr. Gutierrez said, to take some action against you is something we should all guard against very closely. There remain 18 outstanding indictments, 5 guilty pleas from the president's deputy campaign manager and the president's former top national security advisor, among others. You have already said our country was attacked in order to influence the outcome of our election. My first question is, are foreign adversaries, including Russia, continuing to attempt to interfere with our next election?
Congressman, it is, I think, the consensus of the intelligence community that Russia, among other foreign powers, will continue to look for ways to influence our populace, whether or not they would try to interfere with the election in the sense that a lot of lay people think of it is a more of an open question. But certainly there is plenty of information to show that they continue to look for ways to try to divide us and sow discord, to undermine the faith of the American people in the democracy that we hold so dear.
And do you recall, Director or Deputy Attorney General, in all of the subpoenas and letters and demands for information, have our colleagues on the other side of the aisle written to you and asked you to come and provide information about the efforts that are being made to protect the 2018 election from any foreign interference?
Well, the FBI, I know, has provided numerous briefings on our efforts. As the Deputy Attorney General mentioned, I created a foreign influence task force dedicated to this topic. And while I can't speak specifically to, just because I don't remember exactly which committee they've done what with, I know we've provided a lot of briefings. We also, I personally addressed the full House of Representatives along with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence on this subject.
And the IG report that was prepared, what was the subject of that report?
Well, I think the report largely speaks for itself, but the focus is on the handling of the Clinton email investigation.
And did that report address the independent counsel's investigation relating to Russian interference and coordination with the Trump campaign?
That's not my read of the report.
It's not my read either. And would it be correct that the president made a statement after receiving the IG report, and he said, and I quote, "This report totally exonerates me. There's no collusion. There was no obstruction," referring to obstruction of justice. Is that an accurate statement of the conclusions of that 500-page report, Director Wray?
The time of the gentleman has expired. The director can answer the question.
Yeah, Congressman, I'll let the report speak for itself.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To direct my first question to Mr. Rosenstein. Mr. Rosenstein, I know that you're a constitutionalist, and I think about the framework we're dealing with here in this Article 1 asking questions of Article 2. And I would ask is, in our role of oversight here, in our Article 1 role of oversight, is there any information that's housed within the executive branch, anywhere in the executive branch, that would be permanently and forever unavailable to the oversight of the United States Congress?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, Congressman, with regard to the information in the Justice Department. There are certain categories of information as Director Wray said, that we typically wouldn't release. And my experience is typically the Congress doesn't want to know, for example, the identities of confidential sources. I think what's significant you need to understand is Director Wray and I don't know the names of the confidential sources. To the extent we ever hear them, they're masked. And so there is information that I think it would be inappropriate.
If I could just zero in on that just a little bit, because what I'm trying to get at here is that the public is never going to have confidence in this broader issue that we've been talking about for so long until as much information as possible can have sunlight on it. And Congress is not going to have confidence until we actually get information that we don't have to pull and try to fill in the blanks and then fill in the blanks of redactions, et cetera. And so I would submit that there's no information that's housed within the executive branch in whatever form, even if it's just institutional knowledge, that would forever be foreclosed from access to the United States Congress.
Yes, sir. I agree. Forever is a long time. But I certainly am sympathetic, and I understand the concern. There are certain
So do you generally agree with me on that statement, though?
There are certain types of information, Congressman, that we've developed protocols with the intelligence committees where the intelligence agencies will actually provide briefings, at least at a high level, for information that's not further distributed. I know this is a challenging issue.
And I'm aware of that, and I'm not really going to take you down into specifics. I just want to get to this point that,
yes, sir.
And I'll assert this, and you can disagree with me if you like, or under the right format, whether it's in a SCIF, whether it's the people that are appropriate members of the committees of jurisdiction, Congress must eventually have access to all information that's housed within the executive branch of government, or that empowers the executive branch then to be beyond oversight. Would you agree with that?
There is an executive privilege, Congressman, and as you said, we don't want to have a constitutional debate.
Okay, let me turn that executive privilege back. Right. Again, what if...
All right, guys, well, we're going to bring it back into the newsroom and change it up just a little bit and go over finally to Wisconsin, where next President Trump and Governor Scott Walker are going to be speaking at that Foxconn facility. Foxconn is an electronics company. It's a Taiwanese company that's best known for manufacturing Apple iPhones and Amazon Kindles. And actually, we have a live feed right now of the president touring this facility. You can see right here, they're walking toward sort of that main stage area, and eventually he's going to give his remarks. So we're going to stay right here in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, where the president will be talking business and job growth in Wisconsin at this facility. This Foxconn facility was actually somewhat controversial because it received a $4 billion package of tax breaks as an incentive really to build there for this company. So prior to this, we heard a little bit of a Q&A with one of the executives there from the company, and now sort of the media is meandering on over to the stage to catch these remarks. So that's coming up next here in Wisconsin.
I know.
What are we looking at? What is this room?
This, he'll explain it, but it's Zap.
Okay.
It's the future of brain surgery. Prepare to be awed.
Okay, let's do stills down, TV in the back if we can, please. We got more coming.
Can we get in front of you?
Yeah.
Can I get behind you, Gary?
Print, radio, non-camera, please go to the back.
Oh, yeah.
Gary, your backpack is blocking.
But
So what color is this?
sorry, guys, we need everyone inside the doorway. Please keep moving.
Keep moving in, guys.
Keep going.
Guys, we gotta get in.
Keep going.
Behind the doorway. Turn around and go out.
I'm not going anywhere. I can't go anywhere.
What this is a little bit?
Here, just scoot forward so they can get behind you.
Hey.
I'm gonna step.
All
We gotta
right.
move.
We just need them to keep going.
Jennifer's asking for a quick rundown of what they're doing.
Yep, that's fine. I just need to get everyone in first, and then we're gonna cross through the seat.
All right.
You are.
Okay, this is Zap Surgical. This is the Zap X. It is a advanced brain surgery, minimally invasive, non-invasive device that focuses radiation very precisely on brain tumors, and in an outpatient way eliminates those brain tumors most of the time. So it's within the realm of what we call stereotactic radiosurgery. So a 30-minute treatment eliminates the cancer, and patients can literally take off hours later. So that's what we're going to talk about. It is currently, we're based in San Carlos, Silicon Valley, California, and we're about to set up some of our operations here in Wisconsin Valley. Okay? Where are the principals going to be standing?
Where the what?
Where's the president going to be?
The president's going to stand out over here. I think that's going to be your big shot.
Beautiful.
I'll be over here somewhere.
Okay.
Great.
You said they could play golf for 30 minutes or 90 minutes? What did you say? I'm sorry.
I said within hours.
Hours.
I've seen people ride their bicycle home after this class of procedures. So, example, the instance I'm trying to make is that it's relatively benign, not what people think of when they think of brain surgery.
Golf has been a good choice for both. You guys have been playing for a long time.
You guys need knee pads.
Yeah, no knees, I think.
Knee pads, strong backs. It's hard being a photographer.
That was impressive. We rely on you to find something like this for our knees.
What's that?
We rely on you to find something like this for our knees
Okay.
and backs. All right, thank you. The knee of the future. Took the knee of the future today.
It's our moment of glory.
You know your Foxconn executives by any chance? I don't recognize this gentleman here. I know that's the chairman next to the president. Okay, just one minute. Shut in the dark. Vice Premier. Yeah.
Vice Premier of Foxconn?
No, of China. China.
President. Okay. Then this morning I had.
I wanted to give you the
notion of Ross just part of time off. Hey.
Well, we want to keep you on your toes.
You do a good job of that. You know, it's like I'm in the operating room and the aneurysm's ruptured, you know? What the hell do I do now?
Exactly, sir.
Go back and take a very hard look at how we are bucketing the different categories of domestic terrorism. And I think it's been a useful learning experience for us, and I expect we will see some changes in how we do things going forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Deputy Rosenstein, thank you.
I believe you asked me questions about this in December when I was here, and I have no further knowledge of it beyond what Director Wray has, but I do want to assure you that based upon what I've seen the FBI during my tenure there, when they use the term extremist, the FBI is focused on violence and violations of the law. They're not focused on people who are exercising their First Amendment rights.
So, you know what? When we did meet, I also asked both of you if you were aware of any cases. And that point, you said that you weren't, you didn't know of any investigations. But since then, you might be familiar with a case in Dallas where there was a young man who, you know, put some, in my opinion, crazy stuff on his Facebook page, but had no history of violence and wound up being incarcerated for several months. And the Black Identity Extremist document was the basis in which he was arrested. Are either of you familiar with that case?
I'm not.
No? How about you?
I'm not familiar with it, and the FBI's report would not be the basis for prosecuting or arresting him.
Not prosecuting. It was the basis from which they, they labeled him that. And
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so I would ask again, follow-up, I would appreciate it because my concern that I raised to you then, and I still have that concern, is that until this report is retracted and clarification is made to thousands of police agencies around the country, that report can be used, especially if you have, when my concern is young African-American activists who might protest police violence, you know, whether it's a police shooting like the one that just happened in Pittsburgh, the guy running and was shot in his back, or in Sacramento, because these shootings continue to occur and they continue to be videotaped.
Well, as I said, we're continuing to look at the information we used for that report and the manner in which we described it. As I also, I think, said to you back when we spoke last, we have very strict guidelines about, not just in this area, but in any domestic extremism situation. We only investigate when we have those three things. Remember,
Right.
credible evidence of a violation of federal criminal law, number one. Number two, credible evidence of violence or a threat of violence. And then third, motivated by some extreme ideology. And if we don't have those things,
Right.
our folks are not allowed to open up an investigation.
So I would, in wrapping up, would ask if you would follow up. I'm encouraged to hear that it's caused, maybe some reconsideration. What worries me, though, is that if that reconsideration takes place within the department is great, but those 2,000 law enforcement agencies, if there is not correction, clarification, I still worry that it could be used. And so perhaps we could follow up with that.
Time of the gentlewoman has expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gomert, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Attorney General, a common theme, it seems, to many of your responses has been basically, gee, I wasn't here then, that wasn't me, I didn't personally do that, I didn't redact Judge Contreras' name from the documents so Congress couldn't see that he was friends with Peter Strzok, that was someone else. But you have added quite pointedly to Mr. Jordan that I am the Deputy Attorney General, and you certainly are. But the actions of your subordinates, which are all employees of the Department of Justice, aren't you vouching for those? Don't those people respond to you?
Those people all ultimately report to me, yes, sir.
And that would include when Bruce Orr's office was directly next to yours, I believe. Isn't that correct? And he worked for you?
He worked in the Deputy Attorney General's office. I think it was a couple of doors down, but yes.
Okay, a couple of doors down. Well, we're aware of some of the events that occurred before your confirmation as the Deputy Attorney General. However, some of your team members certainly were involved. So I want to ask, was Tashina Gahar, your deputy, or Tricia Anderson involved in any stage of drafting, editing, or approving the 4 FISA applications to spy on Carter Page?
I wasn't sure if you were directing that question to me, but Congressman, sitting here right now, I don't know exactly who was involved in drafting what FISA application.
So just to be clear, apparently, Director Wray, you have to answer for the Deputy Attorney General about FISA applications he signed?
No, you were asking about...
Yeah, the 4 applications to spy on Carter Page. Yes. And I think you've been a bit vague on whether you even signed
no,
the
sir.
FISA.
Let me try to clarify for you, if I may.
Well, did you sign the 4th FISA application?
I approved the filing of a...
okay, now you say you approved that application. Now, that's going before a FISA.
That's my job, sir.
That's your job, okay. You approved it. Well, when you approve a FISA application, in your mind, does that mean you should read it and understand what's part of it?
You should certainly understand what's part of it, sir.
But you're parsing words, so that doesn't mean you need to read it, in your opinion. Is that correct?
It depends on the circumstances, sir, and...
well, telling you, being a former felony state judge,
yes.
If I had somebody like you come before me and now it was revealed later that the guy that signed and approved an application for a warrant had not even read the application that would allow spying on somebody, I would look at everything he signed from then on with a jaundiced eye. And I'm telling you, I was a little concerned about even...
Give me a chance to explain, sir?
Well, you have. You've said
no, I have not.
Approve it. Well,
I did approve it.
I didn't ask that question because you said you approved it, but you took out the words that you read it. And so it is my time.
Texas will suspend. I just want to make it clear to the Deputy Attorney General, you will be afforded a full opportunity to respond once his time has expired. If he wants to yield to you during that
time. My time continued to run while the chairman took up some of my time. So
you'll have that too.
and actually I was being interrupted. I did not have a question. I was taking the words that the Deputy Attorney General himself said. So, well, let me ask you about this. You said earlier Bruce Ohr was not working on the Russia investigation. Let me ask you, here's
my knowledge.
To your knowledge, did you not know that Bruce Ohr was meeting with Christopher Steele, getting the information about the dossier and supplying that information to the FBI at the same time his wife Nellie was working for Fusion GPS that was helping Hillary Clinton? Did you not know he was doing that for the FBI?
Correct.
You did not know that?
Correct.
Okay, so he officed a couple of doors down, but you had no idea that he was actually the go-between to get that information. So when did you find out about that?
So as I said, sir, the Inspector General is reviewing these files, and I hope I have an opportunity to explain.
Well, let me just say, you look at the deputy, look at the summary. Mr. Horowitz said, we did not have confidence that Strzok's decision to prioritize Russia investigation over following up on the mid-year related investigation discovered on the Wiener laptop was free from bias. Pretty clear to most of us, his bias did affect that decision, and the
time of the gentleman has expired. The Deputy Attorney General may respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I thought you were asking me questions, sir. I completely understand your concern. And this FISA process is being reviewed by the Inspector General. If he finds some problem with it, I'll respect that. Now, we don't talk about FISAs. It's illegal for us to talk about FISAs. In this particular example, as a result of the Intelligence Committee, certain information was declassified, and so I'm comfortable talking about that. You have to understand in context, sir, that the department had made the decision to disclose the existence of a FISA to the House and Senate before I got there. Now, what I signed was what's called a renewal application. Already been approved 3 different times by a federal judge. It was signed under oath by an FBI agent who attested that it was true and correct. Now, if he was wrong, we'll hold him accountable. But let's allow the process to conclude before we jump to conclusions about that. Because I assure you, sir, I'll be just as offended as you if I find there was some incorrect information in that application.
Well, Mr. Chairman, since we've learned that he relies heavily on people that were part of his team to do these applications, I don't think we can get to the truth until we question Tashina Gahar and Tricia Anderson, and that would also include why she slow walks the notices of NSC meetings to the Attorney General when she's working for the DAG just to make him look bad. So we need to get those 2 people in here and question them.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond, if there's any evidence of wrongdoing, sir, by anyone on my staff or anyone in the department, I would expect you to give them fair process, bring the information to my attention or the Inspector General's attention. Let's hear both sides and then let's reach the conclusion. I think what's important to understand, and I understand the FISA process is very obscure to most people, but these are essentially search warrant affidavits. A federal agent has to swear under oath that everything in that application is true. And then there are review processes within the FBI and within the department. And ultimately, the decision is made by a federal judge. There can be mistakes, and we'll find out if there are any mistakes in this one, but it's not a matter of just slapping a document and signing it. It's a very thorough process, and in that particular case, 4 different federal judges found probable cause. The Inspector General will review it, and I'll await those conclusions, sir, but I just would encourage you not to jump to any conclusions that I or anybody else did anything wrong until we have all the information.
Mr. Chairman. The person, gentleman from New York, seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, earlier I referenced a January 27, 2000 letter to John Linder, who was then the chairman of the Rules Committee, of the Subcommittee on Rules and Organization of the House of the Committee on Rules, from the then Deputy Assistant Attorney General Robert Rabin. I'd like unanimous consent to insert this into the record now.
Without objection, it will be made a part of the record.
I thank you, sir.
And the chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And Mr. Rosenstein and Mr. Wray, thank you both for your service, and I hope you pass along my thanks to the men and women who serve the Department of Justice and the Bureau.
League Baseball All-Star Game card, which is right behind Marla there. And you can purchase it right behind me here at our ticket vending machines today, and also at the Mount Vernon Square station today. And then a week before the All-Star Game, you'll be able to get it at any of our stations throughout the entire network. The cards cost $10, as you know. It's loaded with $8 for fares and $2 for the card. So you get to use it to travel the system, and then you get to keep it as a souvenir of the All-Star Game. So with that, I will take, I'd like to introduce, again, Marla Miller from Major League Baseball. Oh, Jack Evans. Let me have Jack speak first. Mr. Chair.
An afterthought. Here I am. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Since we have no crowd here, you guys are going to have to be the crowd. All right, let's do better than that. Good afternoon. Yay! It's a celebration here today, and we're very excited. We're going to have the All-Star, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game in the District of Columbia for the first time in, 20, 30, 40 years since we had it here. That deserves a big round of applause. The All-Star Game's coming back to D.C. So what an exciting time. So as you know, the history. It took us a long time to get a team back here, but we got it, the Washington Nationals. We built this stadium behind me, and it's one of the best stadiums in the world, and we are now going to host the All-Star Game, which really caps off the long effort that we have had to bring Major League Baseball back to the District of Columbia. So I want to begin, first of all, by thanking again our general manager, Paul Wiedefeld. Give him a round of applause. Paul, the best general manager in the world, has really taken Metro from a struggling organization to where it is today. So thank you, Paul, for all your efforts. And for Marla, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, thank you, Major League Baseball. Thank you, Major League Baseball, for having confidence in Washington, D.C. and moving a team here and now locating the All-Star Game here. It's a real achievement. So thank you, Major League Baseball, for all that you have done for our city. And let me just say this for Metro. Metro has performed excellent over the last year, 2 years, since we've been really making a lot of the changes. But at no better time did we perform than during the Caps run. Go Caps! For that 3 to 4 week period, when the crowd started coming for the night games. And on that 5th game, when we won the Stanley Cup, we had 22,000 people in the arena. We had another 50+ thousand people outside the arena watching. And remember, the game was in Las Vegas. There wasn't even a team in the arena. And all 70+ thousand people were able to get home safely in a timely fashion because of Metro. And throughout those whole days and weeks, Metro performed without a flaw, moving people around. And that's why Metro is so important for the All-Star Game, because, again, Metro will stay open late. Thanks again to MasterCard. Thank you, MasterCard. We'll stay open late, an extra hour plus for the Home Run Derby, and an extra hour plus for the All-Star Game itself. Again, making it possible for fans to not only get to the game, but to get home safely after the game. So it's a really, really great achievement that we have here. And I want to recognize our bid, Southeast Bid, who's here today. Thank you for being out here, who have done so much to organize all of the efforts around the stadium for many of the activities that are going to be taking place as well. So again, great day in the District of Columbia. Thank you all for coming out today. And now I want to introduce a longtime friend who has been with Major League Baseball a long time and was really here during the negotiations, the movement, the planning, the building of the stadium, and now bringing the All-Star Game to the District of Columbia. And let's give a big Washington, D.C. warm welcome to Marla Miller. Marla?
Thank you, Jack, and thank you, Paul. It's great being here, and I also want to thank our longtime partner, MasterCard, for stepping up to the plate, as we say in our game, and sponsoring Metro's extended service. As the presenting sponsor of the All-Star Game, MasterCard is definitely connecting with baseball fans and DMV residents. The success and excitement of the All-Star Game and Home Run Derby has taken Major League Baseball from 2 nights of big events when we were here the last time to almost an entire week of fan-friendly activities. Starting on Friday, July 13th, Geico will be sponsoring All-Star Fan Fest at the Convention Center. For those of you that don't know, Fan Fest is the world's largest baseball-themed park, and a great place to interact with the sport and meet the legends of our game. All Metro riders now have access to a FanFest special ticket offer. Thanks to this partnership, fans who ride Metro can purchase a $20 ticket, which is about a 40% discount. You can visit Metro or MLB social media pages on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And with the Metro station at the Convention Center, it becomes very convenient to travel between FanFest and all the events here in the Navy Yard and along the riverfront. The Navy Yard station, where we are today, will be a hub of all-star activity and excitement with many of our major events happening around the corner and here by Nationals Park. This includes the 89th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard, T-Mobile Home Run Derby, as well as All-Star Sunday, which features the SiriusXM All-Star Futures Game and the Legends Celebrity Softball Game. All-Star events here by the Navy Yard also will include Play Ball Park, which is right in Yards Park. Play Ball Park is a free interactive space for kids and families to enjoy a variety of baseball and softball activities. It will open on Friday, July 13th, and run through Tuesday, the 17th, the day of the All-Star Game. And Play Ball Park will also host the start and finish of the Color Run, which is MLB's All-Star 5K presented by Nike at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, July 14th. So All-Star Week is going to be fun for everyone, and it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience to share. And now fans are going to have more access thanks to Metro and MasterCard. So anyone who wants more information about some of these events, you can go to allstargame.com and visit to see how tickets are being sold and absolutely use your MasterCard. It's now my pleasure to introduce Nicole Francis, Vice President of Public Policy. And Nicole, thank you so much for your support and this initiative and MasterCard's constant support of Major League Baseball and our All-Star Game in the nation's capital.
So some really exciting times, guys, for DC residents for the All-Star Game that's on July 17th. We're going to have tons of coverage on our social media and all of our platforms here at Fox 5 DC about this and that weekend prior. Tons of events going on down near the ballpark, and we'll have all that for you on our platforms, like I mentioned. But we're going to jump over now to Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin. President Trump finally making his remarks this afternoon after touring this electronics company in Wisconsin, and he's going to be speaking about business and what it means for the state as well with the governor in Wisconsin. So we're going to jump over there right now.
And friend of mine for a long time, Linda. Where's Linda? Where's Linda? Thank you. And also, Paul just left. I said, go, because we got to pass legislation. We're passing so much. Look at what's happening with our Supreme Court. Look at the victories we've had. Look at the victories we've had. And Terry, I didn't speak to him about it, but he'll be in particular happy about one of those victories. Do you know which one we're talking about? I think you do. So I want to thank Paul Ryan. I want to thank our great Congressman, Glenn Grothman. Where's Glenn? Glenn, thank you very much. Great job, Glenn. And we have so many other officials. But I have to thank a man who I gave it to. It's like handing the football off, and he ran for 2,000 yards that game. Because most people couldn't have done it. Terry and I have had a great relationship. And Terry was thinking about doing this. And Masa Son, you want to talk about another successful guy? He was in my office. He said, a friend of mine set it up. It said, I want to invest $50 billion in the United States. I said, you don't mean 50 billion, you mean 50 million. And that would have been okay. That would have been worth about a 5-minute meeting, 50 million. And so I thought he was saying 50 million. And when it was set up, it was 50 million, and I wanted to make it quick. But I heard about him. He, along with Terry, they're best friends, he came out, and I said, so good, what are you going to invest in? He said, yes, we're going to do. I said, you can't do that for $50 million. He said, no, I'm going to invest $50 billion. And he misrepresented to me because I can tell you, he did, because he spent much more than $50 billion in the United States. And that was 2 years ago. And now they're going to do a lot more. So I want to thank Masa's son. Masa, are you back there? Come. I got to get him up here. Come on up here, Masa, if you can understand what I'm saying. Come here. He doesn't play games. Doesn't like small numbers, right? You proud of Terry?
Yes, I am.
Say something about Terry. Come on.
Terry is my best friend, and we are the brothers.
What about me, no?
Of course. So I promised the first time I met President Trump, just before you became official president.
That's right.
I think I was the first CEO came to celebrate you.
It's true.
And I said $50 billion investment and 50,000 jobs to the United States. Because I said, no, I couldn't have decided such a thing before this new president. Because I said, now I see the passion, I see the opportunity, I'm more energized, so I made a voluntarily promise. And now I'm very happy. We're making great success, and I said, I have one more thing to promise, which is Foxconn. Right. So those three things I promised, and I did not have official permission from Terry, but I promised.
You brought him along, right?
Yes.
You brought him along.
But I'm so happy today that my promise came to true. So this is a great historical moment because I think United States did not have the ecosystem for new technology last 20 years. And now this is the beginning of new ecosystem of high-tech manufacturing back into the United States.
Thanks. I'll see you back. Thank you, Masa. One of the great businessmen of the world also, those two. That is some combination standing backstage. I said, whoa, but they like each other, they love each other. And his 50 billion turned out to be 72 billion so far. He's not finished yet. And that doesn't include Foxconn. So, big stuff. I want to thank another very special man. I hope he can hear me, because I want him to come on stage. Because I handed the ball over. Terry's a friend of mine, and I recommended Wisconsin in this case. And I'll be recommending Ohio, and I'll be recommending Pennsylvania, and I'll be recommending Iowa, and I'll be recommending, but this was something that just seemed right. And the reason is that you have a car plant in a very nice location. And I flew over that plant with another great Wisconsinite, Reince. You know Reince. Good man. I think he's around here or something. He's a great guy. And I said, that would be a good site. The only problem was that site's about 1/100th the size of what they did here. You could have put one of the smaller buildings on that site. This is big stuff. But I handed it over. I said, Terry, this place is such a great place. You know, I just realized the other day they told me when we won the state of Wisconsin, it hadn't been won by a Republican since Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1952. Did you know that? And I won Wisconsin. And I like Wisconsin a lot, but we won Wisconsin. And Ronald Reagan, remember? Wisconsin was the state that Ronald Reagan did not win. And that was in 1952. And I've gotten to know the people here. They're incredible. And I said to Terry, this would be an incredible place. Then I started hearing the magnitude of what he's doing. This is magnitude like nobody's ever seen. Some of you have been able to see it, and this is just the beginning. This is just the absolute beginning. But so I had this incredible company going to invest someplace in the world, not here necessarily. And I will tell you, they wouldn't have done it here, except that I became president, so that's good. But they wanted to do it someplace now in the United States. And I immediately thought of the state of Wisconsin. Terry came up, fell in love with the people, fell in love with the location, fell in love with the concept here. You know, he's going to make robotics here. They're doing many other things, including full television sets. They're doing many things here, and they'll do a lot of expansion. But I had to hand off the ball. And in private life, you know, you hand off the ball, and sometimes they do a good job, and sometimes it's like, what happened? It didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Because they didn't know what they were doing. And sometimes that happens. And there are very few governors that I could have said, good luck, you're going to build one of the largest operations in the world, over 20 million feet. Good luck. I gave it to Scott Walker. He literally didn't have to make a phone call to me for the last year and a half. He is an unbelievably talented guy. I'm telling you, Scott Walker. Scott, come here. Is Scott around, please? Scott Walker. Governor Scott Walker, come here. Come here. Two things in addition to whatever he said, he should say.
Well, thanks, Mr. President. As you mentioned, you got the ball rolling. Foxconn would not be in America if not for you. Back in April 27th, when you met with Terry Go and told him about not only being in America, but told him there was that pretty good site. That's an honest truth. In fact, Reince Priebus will tell you, he looked at that site. The only thing we said was, we got to get a bigger site than that, because this is much bigger than we ever thought. And your team in the White House, Jared, your cabinet, everybody was just hands on deck. Great team effort here, and we couldn't be more proud to have Foxconn's 8K technology LCD panels for the first time ever outside of Asia, made in the USA, proudly here in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We love you, man. Very cool. So I gave Scott the ball, and he carried the ball, and if that were football standards, NFL standards, he ran for about 2,000 yards in one game. Special guy, special talent. Forget about special guy. He's a special talent. So I hope he doesn't run against me, because that comment will come back to haunt me. He is a special talent and a special person. As Foxconn has discovered, there is no better place to build, hire, and grow than right here in the United States. America is open for business more than it has ever been open for business. Between our low taxes, our cutting of regulations, and we're not finished with the regulation. And we'll have regulation, but it's sensible regulation. You'll be able to get things approved quickly or disapproved. Sometimes it's going to be disapproved. We have clean air. We have crystal clean water. We're going to do all of the things you have to do, but we're going to speed up the process. You have people that wanted to build a plant like this. It would have taken them 25 years to get approvals. 25 years, they got them almost immediately. And the federal government had a lot to say. We had to get going, and they did. And here we are, and they're starting other sections right now. So we're open for business, made in the USA. It's all happening, and it's happening very, very quickly. We've created 3.4 million jobs since the election, including over 300,000 manufacturing jobs. And as you saw, the recent poll just came out, the highest percentage of happiness by manufacturers in the history of the poll, which is a very old poll. Unemployment claims are the lowest they've been in 44 years. Unemployment for African Americans is at the lowest level in history. Unemployment for Hispanic Americans, the lowest level in history. Unemployment among women, and I've been saying it, it's just changed today, is at the lowest level, and I've been telling you 21 years. It's now at the lowest level in 65 years, and it's going to be in history very soon. History sounds even better. For the workers, after 20 years, wages are rising. Remember, I used to say they did better 20 years ago than they did 2 years ago. Now they're starting to do better, and they're having their choice of jobs where they can enjoy what they're doing. And a recent study found that 95% of manufacturers, they want to get going, and they're going to get going. And we have a lot of these things happening in the United States, but to me, this is always going to be the special one, because people that are highly sophisticated, business people that have come out, looked. I had a friend came out 2 weeks ago because he heard about it. He's a highly sophisticated business person that you all know. He could not believe it. He called me up, and he would love to tell me, it's nothing. He's that kind of a guy. Not really a nice guy, but he's a great businessman. He could not believe what he's seen. We are demanding from foreign countries, friend and foe, fair and reciprocal trade. We have been very much taken advantage of as a country. We've lost our companies, we've lost our jobs. They build a product, they send it in. That's why this is so beautiful, because this is as great as there is anywhere in the world, and we do it within our country. And I just want to let you know, we put tariffs on steel and aluminum. Those businesses are through the roof. U.S. Steel called me up. They're expanding or opening 6 plants. They haven't done that in 35 years. Georgetown Steel in South Carolina closed 4 years ago, closed and shuttered. They're open for business. 600 people. That's happening all over the country, all over the country. So I want to level out, and I'm doing it, level out the playing field. And all of the things you hear, some, I mean, frankly, the smart people love it. Some people don't understand it. But we're going to be treated fairly. When our great farmers in Iowa, Wisconsin, Upper New York State, when we want to sell our dairy products into Canada, they charge us 275%. 275%. Essentially what they're saying is, we don't want your product. Because who's going to pay that? So we're going to level out the playing fields, folks. They send us a lot of stuff. No tax. We're going to work it out. It's going to be friendly. We love Canada. We love Canada. I love Canada. But we're going to work it out. Mexico, last year, made $100 billion, plus they have a 17% almost VAT tax that nobody even thinks about. So we were behind the 8 ball, because that tax was there at the beginning. Right from the beginning, we were behind the 8 ball. Mexico wants to make a deal. We're going to make a deal with a lot of people. China. I have a lot of respect for China. I think it's great. And President Xi, I think he's great. He's a friend of mine. But we lost $500 billion over the last number of years. $500 billion a year. We've helped rebuild China. Someday they'll say thank you. But we don't want to do that anymore. We want to have a fair and balanced situation. And it doesn't have to happen immediately, but it has to be fair. Because our country has never done better than it's doing right now. European Union, last year, trade imbalance. We had a deficit of $151 billion. They send us Mercedes. They send us by the millions, the BMWs, cars by the millions. We send them a bushel of corn and they reject it. They have a barrier. They don't want our corn. Because they have their farmers. Okay, I understand. But, you know, if you don't want our agricultural product, we don't want your cars. I mean, you know, it's not such a complicated formula. And they're going to come back and they're going to say, let's talk. Frankly, don't tell them I said it, but they already have. Don't ever tell them I said that. You'll screw up my negotiations. But we're doing good. European Union, they're great. They're great people. And it'll all work out. Many, many other cases. We've actually made a deal with South Korea. We took the deal. I expired it. It was a terrible deal. It was supposed to give us 250,000 jobs, done by Hillary Clinton. And she was right. It did give 250,000 jobs. So she was right. It gave it to South Korea, not to us. This was not a good deal. But we've renegotiated the deal, and subject to signing. I always say subject to signing because lots of things happen. And if it did happen, that's fine. But we made a new deal with South Korea. Wonderful deal for both. And our farmers now are protected. And our tariff, which has been paid for years, which was expiring, has now been extended for a long period of time on trucks. At the center of America's economic resurgence are the massive tax cuts that I signed into law 6 months ago. We slashed tax rates for individuals, and we did numbers for business. We did tremendous amount of work. And it's the largest tax cut ever approved, ever gotten in the history of our country. Tax cuts and tax reform. Included in there is ANWR, the largest drilling site potentially in the world in Alaska. And we got rid of the individual mandate, which is going to be great for the people here and the people that work here. In other words, we got rid of Obamacare's individual mandate, where you have the privilege of paying a lot of money for not having to buy health care. Think of that. Think of that one. You pay a lot of money not to have health care. So it's gone. Most unpopular provision in Obamacare by far. And Obamacare is largely gone now. And we're opening up, Secretary Acosta's here, Secretary Azar's here. We're opening up unbelievable health care, cross state lines, highly competitive, really great health care. Everyone's competing for it. All of the insurance companies are dying to get it. They all want to compete. The costs are going to be low. And it's costing our country nothing. Nothing. And it's so much better than any form of insurance. We have association, and then Secretary Azar is coming out in 3 weeks with a massive plan. You won't believe it. And we did repeal and replace Obamacare. Unfortunately, one senator decided to put the thumb down late in the morning. And that was not a good thing when he put that thumb down. But we've made up for it, and in many ways, more than made up for it. But that was a sad day to me. But we repealed and replaced, but now we have something that ultimately I think is going to be better. And that's what we do. Today we're seeing the results of the pro-American agenda. America first, make America great again, all those hats. Greatest phrase ever used in politics, I suspect, right? That's the greatest, make America great again. So what are we using in 2 years, 2.5 years? Can you believe 2.5 years? So soon. You know what the phrase is, right? Huh? That's right. Keep America great, of course, exclamation point, right? Keep, because we can't say in 2 years, so we were here for 4 years, we can't say make America great again. But when you look at what we're doing, it's very simple. It's called Keep America Great. We'll get you nice hats. Maybe we'll make them green this time instead of red. Green, representing cash. This plant will manufacture state-of-the-art LCDs, adding an average of $3.4 billion to the state's economy every single year. And by the way, I don't know this, but I understand life and I understand politics, I guess. Or I wouldn't be here in a short period of time. I must have potential, right? Because here we are all together. But I assume the Democrats are probably saying no deal is any good. You know, they say any deal you do. You know, the Democrats, as headed by Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. You know, they have a new leader, Maxine Waters. This is our new leader. But I assume, you know, because any deal you make, they have no idea what the deal is. We had a couple of them recently, a trade deal. And one of the Democrats got up, the deal doesn't work. And he didn't know the deal. Nobody ever shared it to him. We didn't know the deal because we hadn't even negotiated it yet. And he was saying, but that's the way it is. They always will criticize. This is one of the great deals ever. What this is going to do, And I don't even know that anybody's critical of it. I can't imagine they could be. I know that Terry is investing $10 billion in the state. $10 billion. Incredible. So even at this early stage, the economic benefits of this new plant are being felt in 60 of Wisconsin's 72 counties already. Don't worry, in another 3 weeks, it'll be 72. Foxconn has already contracted 27 local Wisconsin companies to begin construction of the main facility. As big as this is just a toy compared to the main facility. And I'm pleased to report that Foxconn intends to build 100% of the factory with beautiful American concrete and beautiful American steel made right here. So important. Our steel industry, our aluminum industry, our solar panel industry, it's all coming back. They're coming back fast. One of the many people here with us today who will benefit from this plant is Celia Griffin. She is a mother of 3 and a member of the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 139. Celia, could you come up, tell us what this Foxconn job, this really incredible plant has done for you and for your family? Celia.
Hello, everyone. Giving honor to God, I started in 2005 as an operating engineer, and Hoffman Construction gave me my first job in a haul truck. I went on from there to work for Gilbane, building the Northwest Mutual Towers in Milwaukee. Now the two families are together, and they brought me to Foxconn to work in the haul truck again, and me and my family are grateful and very pleased to be at home again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Celia. And Celia, we want to tell, by the way, Harley Davidson, please build those beautiful motorcycles in the USA, please, okay? Don't get cute with us. Don't get cute. They don't realize the taxes are coming way down. They don't realize that yet. Spend a lot of time with them. Build them in the USA. Your customers won't be happy if you don't, I'll tell you that. Now let's hear from Dawn Wallace. After she and her husband Dave worked hard to raise 3 beautiful children, Dawn recently decided to take advantage of the new job opportunities that Foxconn created right here in Wisconsin. And I'd like to have, can you come up, please? Where are you? Good. Hi, Dawn. Hi.
So, did you receive any of my tweets, President Trump?
I did.
You did. Stay-at-home mom turned into Foxconn builder.
That's right, I did.
I would just like to thank Hoffman for giving me the opportunity to start something new. What a perfect way than Foxconn. I was super excited when I heard it was coming in our area.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Dawn. I'd also like to welcome Chris Koski, one of the project managers of this site, who has really done a fantastic job. Chris, please.
Hello, everybody. So one of the best parts of my job is getting to put these teams together. It's one thing to build them. It's analytical. We look at pictures and then we make them into the real thing in the real world. But in order to do that, I need currently 110 people to help me every day. And they show up early and they go home late, and we spend time together, probably more time together than we spend with our families. But they're there every single day, and they do everything that we ask, and we get the job done on time. And that's the part that makes it special. So we get together out there every day, and we make sure to care for each other, take care of each other. We actually treat it like it's a family. It's a dangerous job in some ways, but we look out for each other. And I just think that it's probably the best thing. I've really been doing this since I was about 10 years old. And I can't believe I'm standing here talking to you all today about it. So Foxconn is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to Hoffman Construction, and certainly for Chris Koski. And I appreciate the opportunity. President Trump, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
And by the way, as soon as I'm finished here, I'm going to hop in that plane. I'm going back to Washington, and we're going to pick ourselves one great United States Supreme Court justice to take the place of a great man. Justice Kennedy, really a great person, great man. I'm so honored that he decided to do this during our term. And I think that showed confidence in us. But he is a very special person, special man, Justice Kennedy. And just remember that name. He's done some very important decisions, very important things. Highly respected, and we love him. So we'll be picking somebody, and we'll be hopefully making you very proud. So important. You know, when I ran for president, I started hearing, outside of obviously defense and all of that, the most important decision a president can make is the picking of United States Supreme Court justices, if you're lucky enough to do that. We had a fantastic choice with Justice Gorsuch, very proud of it, doing a fantastic job. And we're going to try and do just as good. So we're going to start working on that process. We've already started. And hopefully we're going to make you very proud. So just in finishing, I want to say that today's groundbreaking is only one part of the exciting story that is playing out across our nation, all over our nation. Chrysler is shifting production from Mexico to Michigan. Toyota and Mazda will build a new facility in Alabama, a beautiful facility. And we have many other companies coming in, not only the car companies, but this is where the action is. I go around and I see the leaders of different countries, and they always say, congratulations on the great economic success that you're having in the United States. And we have an economy that's almost twice the size of China and much larger than any other. And, you know, if you think we've made so much progress in the last year and a half, it's put us in this position, and we're going up. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And watch those GDP numbers. We started off at a very low number, and right now we hit a 3.2. Nobody thought that was possible in 4 years, but I think it's going to go a lot higher than that. So you watch those numbers. Each point is $3 trillion and 10 million jobs. Just remember that. Each point. And we already hit a 3.2, and I think we're going to be seeing 4s, and I think we're going to be seeing 5s too, and I think we're going to go higher than that, but that may be in the second term, okay? Can I have a little break? Right, Steve? Our secretary, our great Secretary of the Treasury, right, Steve? Am I okay saying that, Steve? That's my projection. I think that's your projection too, Steve Mnuchin. That's his projection too. You better be right, Steve. In the first quarter of this year, American companies repatriated a record $300 billion that would have never come back to this country. It's overseas profits, bringing the money back home to our country where it belongs. I think we're going to have $3, maybe $4 trillion before that's all over. It was impossible to bring the money back virtually for a lot of reasons. Now they're coming back. In fact, Apple, as you know, Terry makes A lot of the product, laptops, iPhones, makes a lot of them for Apple. And Apple's spending $350 billion. Billion! There's another case. I would have been happy with $350 million, right? But they're spending $350 billion on plants, on building an incredible campus. And Terry's very happy about that. We're also reclaiming our country's proud manufacturing legacy. That's why it's so important that we open up our steel mills again. We need that for purposes of defense. We need that for purposes of legacy. We're restoring America's industrial might, and thanks to the hardworking patriots like you, we're making America greater than ever before. It's greater than ever before. Very shortly, it's all happening. You see it happening. You see what's going on. They're all coming back. We're the place they want to be. To Foxconn and to Terry Go and to all of the amazing Wisconsin workers with us today and all over the state, I want to wish you good luck and congratulations on truly one of the eighth wonder. I think we can say the eighth wonder of the world. This is the eighth wonder of the world. But this is something so special. So I want to just congratulate you all. You're very special people and a very special state. Thank you very much. Thank you to Scott Walker. Thank you, everybody. Great honor to be with you. Good luck. Enjoy this great facility. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you again tomorrow on our stream Friday on Fox 5 Live. Thanks for joining us for wrapping it up there with President Trump in Wisconsin. You can see the newsroom behind me. They're getting ready for the evening shows, so we're going to roll it out right here. But we'll be back again tomorrow at 11:30 as normal for all your breaking news and anything that's live coming in tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff going into the holiday weekend. So we'll catch you then. Have a good one, guys.